the financial rebalancing. The angel of death is coming to visit these people. These people are going down. These people who control the world think that they are pharaohs. The present day pharaohs, soon you shall never see again. This is coming with the greatest wealth transfer in human history. Gold and silver are going to explode in value, giving wealth to the church, to you, so then you can prosper all those around you, because everything when God's kingdom comes in abundance and overflow. All debts, who has credit cards, mortgages, student loans, they will be canceled. Zechariah 1 talks about Thanksgiving. We are days away from Thanksgiving. What is Thanksgiving? Galatians 6 talks about it. Be not deceived, God is not mocked. For whatever a man soweth, thus shall he reap. Those who have planted evil seeds, they are about to get evil upon their own heads. Those who have planted good seeds are about to be blessed beyond measure. We are here. We're going to go dark. And when the lights come on, worldwide celebrations are coming. We are going to see the return this year. 45 comes back, not by his will, but by God's will. God's will shall be done. God gets all the glory.
As you can hear, there are folks out there suggesting that as of this year, President Trump will be reinstated back in office. I'm not going to pretend like I'm subscribing to something that sounds as whimsical as that, but you did hear that. So we're going to be talking this afternoon. Shout out to you guys who are winning in terms of your football games. The Bears are not playing till tomorrow. So I figured I'd get out here and talk to the folks. What about the idea that number 45 will be coming back? Anybody out there think that that might be a possibility? If so, or better yet, if not, why the hell are people actually saying that? Because you clearly heard the guys stating that somehow, some way, number 45 was going to be reinstated. Listen.
45 comes back, not by his will, but by God's will. God's will shall be done. God gets all the glory.
God giving all the glory to number 45. What do you think? Anyhow, folks, the purpose of our discussion today, and I see my Ron Bird song says, The Dreams of White Supremacy. Oh, my God. Sounds like a book that I don't want to read. How would it happen this year? The folks are delusional. I don't know. I don't know, but there is something making this man suggest that. I don't know.
Worldwide celebrations are coming. We are going to see the return this year. 45 comes back, not by his will, but by God's will.
And it's not because of Trump, it's God. God is going to bring this man back. So I don't know what just happened to my monitor. There we go. God is going to bring him back. So Trump definitely appears to have the Lord on his side. I don't understand what God or Jesus or any other deity would, I don't understand why they would be concerned with United States politics. When you really take into consideration God, Jesus is supposed to be, he's supposed to be here for everyone on the entire planet. So why would he be so focused on Trump? That doesn't make a lot of sense to me, but maybe somebody can come in the box. Let me know what the hell am I missing. No, this is not a Broncos jersey. Chicago Bears. I am a Chicago native and I'm representing the Bears, particularly on Sundays, even though their game is not Monday. Their game is not until Monday Night Football. But I always represent the Bears right down to my sandals. So, looking in the comments here, Gary C67 says Trump killed the country. Wow. Okay, let me go straight to the box. I'm not going to bloviate too long. J. Schmo Guitar Show. Coming back this year. What do you think, Schmo?
I don't see any legal way for that to happen. But
neither do I. So why would someone suggest something like that?
Well, people suggest things all the time, but the truth is, I wouldn't put it past, as crazy as our country is going now in politics, I wouldn't put it past somebody to think of some way to do it.
Yeah.
I don't, that's a far fetched thing, and people say crazy
Well,
stuff all the time.
but in the comments, Herbs 598 has said maybe God is focused on saving humanity. How do you view that? That the notion that putting Trump back in office could potentially save humanity?
Well, I don't know about that. I wouldn't know
Well,
how to go about that. I'm a God fearing person that doesn't believe that God's putting Trump or anybody else in office. It's us that puts these people in office, and then we're mad when it doesn't work out the way we want, and and you've got people up here because everybody wants to listen to somebody or come up with some way to fix the thing they believe is harming them. And
right.
I voted for Trump twice. I tell you, I voted for Trump. I'd love to see him come back because I think what the craziness that's going on now could be fixed. But is he a savior? No. People think everybody that's in office is some kind of savior, and they're not. They're just people. And the worst part is we have the worst. Think
Yeah.
about it. Most people should think about it as what are options, Trump or Biden?
Right.
Our
What
options
about
aren't real
the
good.
idea? Let me ask you this: as a Trump supporter, you voted for the man both times and said that you hope that he somehow finds a way back. What if it came down in the primaries to a choice between Trump and DeSantis? Who would you
I'd go
ride with?
DeSantis all the way.
Over Trump?
Oh yeah, hell yeah.
But
I
you,
don't.
I'm certain you would, because you voted for Trump the previous twice previously. You obviously enjoy his economy and the way he was running the country. Why would you put DeSantis over Trump when Trump has some experience you can look back at?
Well, DeSantis is a
As
little
president,
smarter. DeSantis is a little smarter. I don't agree with everything DeSantis did either, but at the same time, DeSantis younger, smarter, little bit. Even though he's basically, a lot of times we see he reacts to the media and people the same way, just a little smoother about it. But he still, some people would consider him offensive in the way he comes back at people. But I think he's shown in at least the people that pay attention that he can work under stress, and it is not as quite as triggering to certain people. You know what I mean? And
well,
we need
you know
more of that.
something, and
Now, I'm sure.
yeah, I agree with you about the triggering part, but I have to ask you, do you believe Trump was triggering because of his policies, or do you believe Trump may have been deliberately trying to trigger people?
Oh, I think he deliberately at times trigger people.
Yeah.
That's his
Okay.
personality. It's his
All right.
personality. And anybody that didn't see that before he was voted in, wasn't paying attention either. Now, if I come down to vote for him or Trump again, or Trump or Biden again, I would vote for Trump every time. And
Right. Right.
but but at the same time, and I really think that in time they're going to the left is going to elect Trump because they're constant. Um, that's all they talk about is Trump, 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 Trump. And they think it's a negative thing, but it's really reinforcing the people that think, okay, they're going after him. There's a reason. So, you always,
Well,
there's,
but let me ask you this then. Okay, I have to ask you this. If you're suggesting that the left speaking of Trump so frequently may get him elected, if the left started going silent on Trump, now we know Trump is still going to speak no matter if the left is talking about him or not. You think it would be beneficial to the left if they just went silent and let Trump go all over the country criticizing him and pointing out bad politicians?
yep.
How so?
Well, because when you spend every day, bad Trump, bad Trump, bad Trump, no matter what it is, and you over and over and over come out, media, wherever, and say that he's guilty of these things and he's never convicted, all you're doing is you're building up the truth that what Trump says is true.
Okay.
So,
So you're suggesting, because when Trump first got elected, he was going all over the country saying how bad and how crooked Hillary Clinton was. After beating her and becoming president, he continued attacking her. You're saying that he would have benefited even more if he said nothing about Hillary Clinton? You're saying that by him attacking Hillary Clinton, it helped Hillary Clinton?
No, I don't think the attacking Hillary Clinton made a difference one way or another, other than in talking points and giving people, something to cheer about or talk about. But really, most Americans really care about what's going on financially, the economy. And, as crazy as it sounds, I mean, not to everybody, but to a lot of people, they just couldn't, and Trump's not the first one. It just happened to get worse. I think, I think it started under Obama, that you had so many people that were so against Obama that they saturated. So, that's where the big division, we've always had division, but that division really took a wide road there. And it has gotten worse ever since.
When you point out that there were so many people against Obama, you'd have to throw Trump in that crowd as well. He was criticizing Trump as much as you're talking about the liberals criticized Trump. Trump was doing the same thing to Obama, right? I mean,
yes,
not born in the country. Yeah.
But you didn't have, but the difference is you didn't have, now you have the Democrats in power of all the government. So they have gone after Trump so many times. Whether you believe it's true or not true, he's not been convicted, but you keep him in the mail, right. You keep him relevant, you keep him as part of the thing. I notice your thing says here, midterms, January 6th mean anything to your vote and early voting concerning you. I don't think January 6th is going to make any difference whatsoever in the midterms.
The polls agree with you. I believe the polls do tend to agree with you. And the second question I have there, I voted yesterday. I wasn't intending to vote on election day, but hell, there was no lines. They had posters in the mall, and I was able to walk up, show them my ID, go through all of the checks and vote. And when I was voting, it made me think of how many people complained, particularly Dinesh D'Souza, 2,000 Mules, saw it a half dozen times, which made me come and pose this question. Are folks concerned with the fact that you can vote early in just about everywhere, as opposed to having to vote only on election day? Does that concern you at all, that people are already voting?
No, it doesn't concern me. In some ways it does, but at the same time, it doesn't. I think the thing that concerns me is the ballot boxes. I've never seen the Mules movie or whatever, 2,000 Mules. I haven't seen that. But that. Just common sense tells us that opens up a lot, because nobody's sitting there watching the voting boxes. And just, I don't really know, but I know this. I watched all the when they did the audit. They hired that company in Arizona and did the audit. And I watched the testimony where they talked about what the oddities they did find. Mm-hmm. Doesn't necessarily mean anything, because that's all it did. It's talked about the oddities. But if you listen to that, everybody has to have. If you look at that without your bias, without picking a side who you wanted to be president or not, but just look at it as a common sense thing, you can see that there is definitely problems. And it may not be, maybe them weren't from the necessarily ballot boxes, but it's I don't know who said it, but somebody said it's not who you vote, it's who counts the votes.
Yeah, but the problem is, no matter who counts the votes, there is always a way to scrutinize them. Like in Arizona right now, where you're talking about, they have tables where there's one Republican and one Democrat sitting down trying to make it. At every table, there is one Republican and one Democrat sitting there counting the votes, trying to make it fair, so to speak. Well, what if an independent is running? He doesn't have anybody representing him. What if the Republican sitting there? What if the Republican sitting there is a rhino? So the point is, no matter how you do this, there's always going to be avenues where you can criticize people, because the Trump side of the aisle is calling just about half of the party rhinos. So what can you do?
Well, as a person on the right, I agree with them. That's the crazy part, is I do agree.
Now, you don't believe Mitch McConnell is a rhino, do you?
Oh, Mitch McConnell is whoever will pay him.
Okay,
He's a
I won't
rhino.
argue with that.
The thing is, and there's so many of the politicians. Anybody who believes in politicians really give a shit about you or anybody else is crazy. But what we're voting for is who will best benefit us at the moment of the election.
Okay.
Their
Does
policies. That's
Trump
it.
fit in that same category? Were you saying he also doesn't give a shit about us now that he is officially a politician? Does Trump fit in that same category?
Absolutely. He fit in that category before he was a politician.
Okay. Okay.
You
You're
don't
pretty
get that rich.
unbiased. Listen. Okay, go ahead. I got to move it on, but I'll give you the last
Yeah.
word. But I will tell you, it's a pleasure talking to you. You're being pretty unbiased. But I'll give you the last word.
That's the whole thing. Is I will vote for Trump because his economic system works for me.
Good
But at the
answer.
same time, he is not my savior and never will be. And if everybody in this world, we get so caught up in politics, and if we sit and think that one man sitting in this house that we elected is going to change things in this world, and we have no say unless we get that person in there, then we forgot the whole purpose. We the people
Fair
mean
enough.
something. I don't care which side you're on. We the people mean something.
I like it. I like it. Come on back anytime. Good talk.
Yep.
We spoke before, I believe, right?
Oh yeah, we have a few times.
Absolutely. Pleasure
All right.
talking. I really like the conversation. I like the unbiased. We're on the opposite side of the aisle, but good talk. We'll catch you on the
Yep.
next one.
You too.
All
Bye.
right. Okay. Now, for folks who want, I'll go right back to the box. I won't hold you too long, but I'll let you hear a few seconds of what we're discussing right now.
What is Thanksgiving? Galatians 6 talks about it. Be not deceived, God is not mocked. For whatever a man soweth, thus shall he reap. Those who have planted evil seeds, they are about to get evil upon their own heads. Those who have planted good seeds are about to be blessed beyond measure. We are here. We're going to go dark, and when the lights come on, worldwide celebrations are coming. We are going to see the return this year. 45 comes back. Not by his will, but by God's will. God's will shall be done. God gets all the glory.
God gets all the glory.
The financial.
Number 45 is returning. That's what we're talking about. I see in the comments, Myron Birdsong says the Christian right. I absolutely would believe that. Let's go to Lars Sear. We haven't talked in a while. Going to if it lets you come on, I don't know what the hell happened there. Good evening or good afternoon, whatever time it is over there. What do you think? You think the Americans are going to put Trump back in office?
Oh man, that would be funny, even dangerous. I do not believe it at
Dangerous?
all.
How so? Wait a minute. Wait, but a lot of folks in this country favor the economy we had under Trump, and they really liked his presidency. So how do you say it'll be dangerous if Trump comes back to office?
I feel like if you let them back, you will go all after all people who has done him wrong, and he will turn America into a dictatorship.
Mm. So you're thinking that if Trump is reelected, elections in America for the presidential level will be over, and that Trump will just do it for the rest of his life, like
Yeah,
Vladimir Putin or Kim Jong Un or something like that.
yeah, exactly.
In the audience, I want to pose that real quick in the audience, folks. For you guys who are listening to the program, how many of you in the audience believe that if Trump was to be reelected, he would pursue a dictatorship? Type in the comments, yes or no, in regards to would Trump pursue a dictatorship. That's interesting, and obviously I agree with you, Lars. That would be dangerous of sorts. But in regards to on the global stage, how might that affect the rest of the world if America went away from democracy towards a dictatorship? I see folks in the audience are saying yes and no. Wow. A lot of yeses.
Yeah, what I see is if Trump comes back before the war in Ukraine is over, he will make stop for it and make sure Russia takes it.
Well, okay, go ahead.
Yeah, and if you let dictators like Putin or any other autocracy run wild, the world will never be the same again. If Trump becomes a dictatorship, that would mean
Well, in
USA.
the comments, and I like this name, Mr. No Fucks 2.0 is asking, where's your evidence? What evidence do you have that Trump will try to do what you're suggesting?
Everything what he said in the comments, in the news, what he's done, it feels like he doesn't like being the loser, so, in a way. And if he's being the loser, he will make sure uh, to shut out the other people who doesn't agree with him. That's how he talks. And
Yeah, but I get what you're saying. I understand what you're saying, how he talks, but is that really evidence? I mean, that could be a misinterpretation or a correct interpretation, but at the end of the day, that's an interpretation. That's still opinion, right? That's not necessarily evidence.
yeah, it's difficult to say evidence, but one way we could say, look back at history, how world leaders has done in the past, how they talk, what they preferred, what they are trying to do. It's the same signals Donald Trump is doing right now.
Right.
Uh,
So you're saying the red flags towards a dictatorship, when you look historically at how other dictatorships have developed, you're saying you can see that coming from Trump already.
yes,
Okay. All
started.
right.
Yeah, I could see it 4 years ago, or maybe long ago.
Okay. That is scary. I would hope that you're wrong, Lars, but you're not the only one saying that. And I see in the comments, Jenny is saying it is plausible, and Jan is saying Trump admits he wants to be like Kim Jong Un. Damn, that should scare the shit out of you. Well, did Trump admit he wants to be like Kim Jong Un, or did he show admiration for the guy? Because there is a difference. But you're saying he said he wanted to be. Have you seen? Well, I guess you. I guess the answer would be obvious on you, Lars, because you're saying it. But in your region, for instance, I'm assuming you guys are more friendlier from your because you're in Greenland. I'm assuming in your region you guys are more friendlier to a Biden administration than a Trump administration.
1,000,000%.
Wow. Now he joked about buying Greenland one time. How was that taken over there?
Everybody laughed when they heard it for the first time, including me, and got scared a little bit after.
So you thought it might be a chance even the Americans might buy your country out?
No, I thought my political view, and I got scared. If America thinks Greenland is available and do not get their way, they might take our country by force. That's what I got scared of.
Oh my God! Wow, that's. I mean, is that the way we're viewed over there? Is that if we don't like things, we're liable to take over a country, invade it, and occupy it, and take? Do we have that view over there?
Not always, but if historically America has done that a lot of times.
Yeah, I'm not disagreeing with you. I'm just trying to see how you guys are viewing it. I mean, obviously, we have imposed some U.S. friendly leaders in countries where the people were not in favor of it, such as Ahmed Karzai in Afghanistan. So I do agree that we actually are guilty of doing it, but I just want to see how it is viewed on the world stage. So you actually did temporarily fear that we might take over Greenland.
Yeah, if when Trump was there, yeah.
Mm. And you don't see that from Biden at all.
No, he
Okay.
the first thing Biden presidency has done is to send the first thing the Biden presidency has done. The first was send the foreign minister to Greenland. It was the
Yeah.
first thing they did.
So right now we're providing a hell of a lot of assistance to the Ukrainians in their conflict. How does Greenland view us helping out the Ukrainians and putting the Russians at odds? Because most countries in Europe are taking sides, whether they side with the Ukrainians or they side with Russia. How does your country, your people feel about us helping out the Ukrainians?
Yeah, but I'm really, really glad you're helping it. You're helping Ukraine. If America is not there, the world would be much more dangerous place if America was not there to make checks on Putin.
Okay. All right, so you guys sound like you're in line with the most of Western Europe because most of Western Europe also are taking our sides. But Lars, I got to move it on. It's good to hear from you again. We haven't talked in a while.
Yeah.
Appreciate you coming through. Hey, good talk.
All
All
right.
right, looking. Yeah, you two have a good one. Looking in the comments before we box. Let Putin have Greenland. Putin is not angry with Greenland, amps. You want to get Putin. Let me say this. And right now, with the Democrats predicted to lose at least Congress, there is no denying that the Republican side of the aisle is not big fans of what Biden is doing in regards to assisting the Ukrainians. So, in regards to your statement, which I know you're being sarcastic about, let Putin have Greenland, but let's say Putin does ultimately defeat the Ukrainians. We get a Republican Congress. They severely scale back Biden's ability to send help to the Ukrainians. After all, most of my Republican friends, my beloved MAGA folks, believe Ukrainians are corrupt and they should not be helped. So if Putin ends up defeating the Ukrainians, taking over who knows how much of their territory and becoming a bigger, more powerful nation, how are we going to view Biden? Because under his watch, that would mean that Putin got bigger and stronger. Even if it's because of the Republican Congress tying his hands behind his back, how is that going to make Biden get viewed if Putin gets bigger and stronger? Reasonable righty, welcome back to the program. Tackle that question to start out with. How would President Biden be viewed if the Republicans take over in regards to Congress, which they're widely expected to do? Putin defeats Ukraine, which is widely expected to happen if we can't supply them with weapons and arms. So that means Putin would get bigger and stronger under Biden's watch. How would America view Biden with that happening? Sounded like Master P. You sounded like Master P. Go ahead.
Well, for me, I don't know. I understand that, Russia just has totally boggled that thing. But I mean, when you look at a massive country like Russia invading another country, go on TikTok and look at these Ukrainian folks that are there. Ain't no fighting on their side of the country, at least, right? So, this small, I'm saying he's not going to take over all of Ukraine. You know what I mean?
Well, you don't know that. How do you know that?
Because I've been to war, and if you go on these Ukrainian folks' TikToks, a small portion of their country might be at war, but they're not. You know what I mean? It's
So you believe if the West, particularly with the assistance, and by the way, folks, tap the screen, get your boy up to 5,000 likes, bring me some more MAGA in here. But what I'm asking you, reasonable writing, is you're suggesting that if Biden stops sending weapons to that country, the Russians, if they gain the upper hand, they won't take over the whole country, just some of it?
what I will say, because I am reasonable, is there's not a single person who wants to be president during that type of an issue. JFK did not want to be there during Cuban Missile Crisis. I mean, he's glad it was resolved the way he was, but nobody wants to sign up for that. You know what I
No,
mean?
I
Hey,
agree with that. Yeah.
go ahead and put all that pressure on me. No problem, right? So
Well, what
I'm
about
not.
Zelensky, though? What about Zelensky? He could have left that country. The United States told him Russia was looking to assassinate him and the West gave him a way out of his own country, and he chose to stay. I believe his phrase is, I don't need a ride, I just need ammunition. So you say no one wants to be president during that time, which I agree with. But how do you view folks like that? I mean, that's some patriotic shit, right?
Yeah, same as I think it's King of Jordan. He used to
Yeah.
gear up back in the day.
Yep.
That that speaks volumes. I don't really want to get into the, whether Ukraine's corrupt, and so does that mean we should or shouldn't be assisting them? I think all countries have a little corruption going on in them.
Damn
Um,
right. Damn right.
what what I will say is it's a double-edged sword, right? You do want to supply Ukraine with weapons so that, if you just take it back to the World War II reference, if we didn't supply England with weapons, if we didn't supply Russia with vehicles, it was just going to be that much tougher when we got there,
Yeah.
So there's that, right? But then there's the other side of the argument, which I guess could be negated by, we didn't get to World War III through Vietnam or Afghanistan, and we still
Right.
basically proxy fought the Russians then. So it's a tough. It is way above most of our pay grades to evaluate the right and wrong thing to be doing in Ukraine. That's what I
So, so in other words, if the Congress and Nico Kaiser, I see you in it. We'll go to you next, Nico de Kaiser. But if so in other words, if Congress comes on as a Republican Congress, which, like I said, the polls are widely stating that's what's going to happen, is that the Republicans are going to take control of Congress. So as a reasonable righty, someone who leans right like yourself, you would not be in favor of the Republicans removing Biden's ability to help the Ukrainians.
I'm in favor of Congress maintaining their power to decide when we do and don't go to war, right?
Right.
But
We're,
since we have,
we're not at war.
I know, but I'm just saying, since we have already started supplying them with arms,
Right.
we've basically chosen our side. So
Okay.
you don't want to pick a side and then be like, uh, stand back and let them get their ass whooped, and now it's a one-on-one fight. You'd rather do it 2-on-1, right? It's like you got the bar with your buddy. You don't wait for him to get his ass whooped and then step in. You step in with him. So
Okay.
no, I don't know. It's a tough spot, because if you've
Yeah, because I'm
chosen a
not getting
side,
your answer
and
on this. I'm listening to you. I'm following you, but I'm trying to think, what is his answer? So because Congress under the Republicans are going to scale back what Biden is doing. And I'm trying to find out. I understand you want Congress to have say so on whether we can declare war. I get that. But if Congress scales back the assistance we're sending to the Ukraine, will you or will you not be happy with that decision?
I think, and this is credit to Biden. Okay, I'm not circumventing answering your question. This is credit to Biden. Um, the damage to Russia has been done. So
What do you mean?
they are not doing well in Ukraine by any means. You know, they they've proven themselves to not be. I mean, they've embarrassed themselves on the world stage as a military power.
Russia. You talking about Russia?
Yes, yes,
True. Facts.
and
I agree with that.
yeah, and so if we were to start scaling back, I think the damage is done. I think it's okay to scale back and kind of de-escalate the situation and pull us back from any type of international conflict.
How are you going to de-escalate this if you scale back? How is that? You think how can you de-escalate the situation by scaling back? Wouldn't that tell Russia that the Ukrainians are weaker now if they don't have American assistance or as much of it?
Now, no, I'm not saying you can just pull the weapons out and then say, good luck, Ukraine. But I think it would be a very good. Right now is a very good time for us to start getting some diplomats in there and saying, "Hey, you've showed you can't win this war, and we're not leaving. We're going to keep on giving weapons. So why don't you just go home?" Some diplomats need to get involved in that.
Yeah, but what if Russia responds to your statement about you've shown you can't win this war, and they tell you we've shown you we haven't even began to use our air force, what naval powers we have. We certainly have tactical atomic weapons. We haven't even began to show you the destruction we're capable of. How do you respond to that?
I'm sorry, were you saying that from the Russian perspective?
Yeah,
Because
if the
yeah,
Russians
be,
responded to it, what you just told me in regards to seeking a de-escalation and telling Russia, well, you've seen that you can't win this war. What if they responded in the manner I just responded to you?
that's why you don't want to put a country like that in a corner where that's their only option. is shit. We can't win with our tanks and our infantry, but we got these damn rockets sitting over here, and we need to avoid that at
Well,
all
but if you
costs.
don't put them in a corner, if you don't put them in a corner and leave them a way out, the way out they want to take is a conquering of Ukraine.
I mean, there would become a point in Armageddon where hey, you've made your choice, and we'll strike back. We can't.
Okay.
So yeah, you have to put them in a corner in a way, but you also have to leave them in out. Again, this is a way above my pay grade, right? But
Right. Okay.
when
Fair
you
enough. Well, it
you
could be one of those things. Nobody puts Putin in the corner. I believe that was a 1980s movie or something like that. But I don't know. I get what you're saying, but I don't know if
and
Putin is interested in de-escalating, other than maybe being told no one will pursue you for the war crimes that you obviously have committed.
yeah, I don't know, and yeah, we have to be. I'll give credit to Biden. We have to be supporting Ukraine in some way because history has proven itself. We did absolutely nothing to the funny mustache guy, and we just let him keep getting away with whatever he wanted until it became
Yeah.
too
It
big.
became
So
a problem.
yeah.
It
So I
became a
mean,
problem. Yeah.
it's tough. Yeah. I mean, I'm sorry that you're asking me questions way above my pay grade. I just don't pretend to be
Well, it's
qualified
okay. I
to
always
know
want, listen, I always
exactly
make
what
it
to do in
clear.
that situation.
Yeah, listen, I always make it clear that the primary goal is to reach out to the other side and see what's on your mind. I don't view you any I don't hold any ill will to you for your answers because hell, I don't know either. That's why we're having a conversation. But reasonable. It's always a pleasure talking to you. I do gotta part ways with you now, but come on back through anytime, man.
Hey, can I get last word?
Go for it.
20 minutes ago, I just caught it really funny. That's why I threw my request in, because some dude named Alan Michael in your comments said Trump preys upon the uneducated, but he spelt it Prays. So we all need to get over our little superiority complexes over here. All right, guys.
All right, good one, good one.
Have a good
It
day,
should
man.
be Prey. I get it. All right, talk to you later. All
Take it easy.
right. Oh my God. Yeah, you can't criticize when you leave yourself out to be criticized. Good eye. And I see Rick James. I'm Rick James, bitch. I see Rick James in the comments said the same thing. Okay, real quick, the topics we're going to talk, and I seen Kaiser in the comments. I do want to talk to you, Nico. I'm gonna go to you next, but real quick, what we're discussing, as you can see on the screen, are two issues. In regards to the midterms, if you haven't voted already, I voted yesterday. Two issues. First, does January 6th mean anything to you in regards to voting? What do I mean by that? There's a hell of a lot of folks on the ballot throughout the country that believe Biden never won the election. So does that mean anything to you if the person running in your district in your state for Senate, governor, or whatever believes that the election was never held properly or that Trump outright won? By the way, folks, there's enough patriots and liberals alike in here. I'm trying to get to 5,000 likes. I'm asking that you tap the screen, particularly because it tends to bring more MAGA. My primary audience, my preferred guests are MAGA. Haven't had a lot of you tapping the screen, so our likes are kind of low. I get that the games are on. My Bears are not playing today. They're playing on Monday Night Football. That's why I'm here rolling with you people. In the comments before we go to Nico, Marla Victoria says Trump lost. So that's the first question. Does the January 6th incident and the whole 2020 election, the way it was viewed from MAGA, does that mean anything to you in regards to your choice in the midterms? And the last one, is early voting concerning to you at all? Because a lot of folks believe the early voting, the drop ballot boxes and things like that are an invitation to corruption. There are a lot of folks in this country that believe you should only be able to vote on election day. So the fact that you can vote early, does that concern you? Going straight to the box, Nico de Kaiser. Good. This is our first time talking, Nico. How are you?
I'm doing well. How are you doing, sir?
I'm doing good. You said you wanted to speak in regards to what's going on in the Ukrainian-Russian conflict. What's on your mind?
I was just that I could offer my insights, just a little bit of my background. I'm a history teacher for public school education, as well as a logistician in the United States Army Reserve. So I tend to look at the issues going on with international politics, and especially with conflict and war, in regards to the lens of military doctrine and how that affects the decision-making process of politicians in our country. So I the number one thing I've been seeing lately in the news is this fear of a World War III or a nuclear war. And the one thing when I talk to people is based on an analytical perspective, from a military strategic perspective, I just feel that Putin resorting to using a tactical nuclear warhead, which is not a full nuke but a smaller payload yield nuclear warhead, in my opinion, I don't think it's very advantageous for him to use it. I think there's yes, it would do a lot of damage. It would send a message, but in the blowback from
What about yeah, exactly. That's the point I would make. As opposed to the damage, what about the fear? It shows if I'm willing to use a smaller one, who goes to show I'm not willing to use a big one? So what about the fear mongering message it could send?
So I definitely think there is an aspect to that. But one thing is that when nuclear proliferation happened and all of these countries started obtaining nuclear weapons, then we ended up with this thing called the MAD doctrine, which was the mutually assured destruction.
Right.
So
Exactly.
at this point, other than the United States using 2 atomic bombs in World War II on Nagasaki and Hiroshima, it was pretty much the unspoken rule that you don't use yours, I don't use mine. And I think Putin realizes, because at the end of the day, we can say that whether he's evil or not, but we can all agree that he's not a dumb man. He's ex-KGB with the Russian, the Russian equivalent of the CIA, very educated man. And he understands that once that line is crossed, there's no uncrossing that line. So
Well,
I
wait
think
a
that's
minute. Here's my counterpoint. Mutually assured destruction, MAD, which is what you brought up. That
yes.
makes sense when you're talking about one nuclear nation choosing to preemptively use a nuclear weapon on another nuclear nation. We're going to bomb each other into the Stone Age. But what about
Yes.
in this case where the Ukrainians are no longer a nuclear nation? Are you suggesting that if he uses a tactical nuclear weapon on the Ukrainians, another nuclear nation is going to jump in and start a nuclear war with Russia? I mean, would the United States resort to using nuclear weapons to defend a country that is not officially an ally, not a member of NATO, or any of that? Would we be willing to jump into a nuclear war with Russia over a country that we're not even in any kind of alliance with?
That is, and I definitely agree with that. I think that if in the situation, if you were to use a tactical nuclear warhead, I don't believe we would respond with nukes. I believe it wouldn't activate the BAT doctrine. At most, I think he could possibly even get away with 2. It really just depends on the overall response from the United Nations and NATO itself. I definitely wouldn't take off the table the retaliation of a conventional invasion. I can definitely foresee a future where if he does decide to use a tactical nuke, that NATO says we need to stop this, but we're going to do this through a conventional invasion. We need to not escalate it further to activate the MAD doctrine. That's about where
But
I
you're
could
not
see.
gonna. But you're going to do that if. Okay, right now we all know Putin is guilty of war crimes. If for some reason
Yeah.
he was captured, he would be put into a war crimes trial. So
Uh,
he already knows if he uses a tactical nuke on Ukraine, and what you're talking about is Western Europe and NATO members deciding to go after him conventionally, the first thing he's going to say is that, well, if you guys start trying to come in my country, I'm going to start using nukes on France and Italy and other places. Because at the end of the day, if we successfully invade Russia conventionally, Putin could be hung. So he has nothing to lose by going full blown nuclear. So I don't think the West would get involved in all of that over Ukraine. Maybe I'm wrong, but I don't think the West would be willing to risk all of that.
Yeah, like I said, I think that's just one avenue. I think it definitely is not it's not a black and white issue whatsoever. And I have to agree with you on that too. It really just depends on what length we're going to, because a lot of people mentioned that, yes, we're supporting Ukraine, but at the end of the day, really what we're doing is we're funding a proxy war, which
Right.
when you look at the grand scheme of everything, and you look at all the money that we poured into the country, whether you agree with it or not, it is cheaper than funding a full conventional war against a near peer threat. And that's the new terms that we're using with our military doctrine now, is that we're counterinsurgency in the Middle East. That is out of our doctrine now. Everything that we are focused on in the military and the Department of Defense is LISCO, which is large scale combat operations. And in the grand scheme of things, it is much more it is much cheaper and effective for us to fund that proxy war through Zelensky in Ukraine than to put American lives on the line, along with
Yeah,
the.
but do we, and I agree with that point, but do we really want to help the Ukrainians win, or are we just trying to spank that ass when it comes to Ukraine? Because I'm asking you is because if we wanted to help the Ukrainians actually win, we could start sending them F-16s, F-18s, F-22s, and 35s. We haven't sent them even a fraction of what we could send them to really spank that ass. We're sending them a bunch of little stuff. So do we want them to win, or are we just trying to spank that ass?
I think we are, as a country, as national interest is concerned, I think we are less concerned with helping Ukraine win and more concerned with spanking the ass of the Russians. Because a lot of people a lot of people praise Zelensky, which at the end of the day, a leader of a country willing to stay there and be involved in it, I give all the props and admiration to a man willing to do that for his country. But we cannot act like that Ukraine was this amazing symbol of democracy prior to the
Right,
invasion, prior to
right.
2014. So I think our interest definitely lies more with hurting Russia as much as we can, as it is to propping up and supporting the Ukraine in their fight.
So, with the midterms coming, which is what I talked about on the board, how do you feel about the possibility that the Republicans are going to take control of Congress, which is what is widely expected to happen, and then tie Biden's hands behind his back in regards to funding for the Ukraine, which could put them at great odds of loss of life, loss of territory, and even loss of sovereignty? So, how do you view the fact that it's a good chance in a few months Biden may no longer be able to help the Ukrainians out as much as he was in the beginning?
Yeah, I think that definitely is a concern that I've had. I would hope that the Republicans, I'm just full disclosure, I'm a conservative, I'm a registered Republican. I would hope that the Republicans are using this as more of a winning point against the Democrats for the sake of elections. But I would hope that at the end of the day, when you have the Joint Chief of Staff, you have your international politics advisors there working to give you all these super high ranking generals, even people that are no names we know nothing about, giving the best advice to the situation. I would hope that at the end of the day, when these people meet behind closed doors, because we all know politics, it's something that we see, and then we have the discussions that go on behind the doors that we don't know about. And I just hope that when you
I
take the
well, I want to agree with you, but I will tell you this, and this is you can tell me where you think I'm getting it wrong. I always invite constructive criticism, but I believe in the Trump era. Because before what you're talking about, I believe is what they used to do. Say one thing out loud in favor of your campaign, but behind the doors, Lindsey Graham and Joe Biden are having dinner together, or they're having lunch and they're having a civil conversation. But in the Trump era, shit got personal. I don't believe behind closed doors they're being any friendlier than they're being allowed. I don't think Mike Pence, for instance, with Trump saying some of the things he said about Mike Pence, I don't believe for a second that behind closed doors they're any friendlier than they are right now in the public stage. I believe that hatred is genuine.
I definitely have to agree with you there, and it really kind of irks me sometimes whenever people talk about how Trump is this evil, monstrous person that was just a new World War II Third Reich leader. I definitely disagree with that, and I think Republicans have more come to understand what Trump is that Trump is the Trump. It's easy to understand when you have Trump, you know what you're getting, and you know what also comes along with it. You know that you're getting the good economy that came with it. You're getting some of the Abraham's Accord that was being put in the Middle East. You get a lot of great policy, but along with that, you also get Trump. You know, everything that's said on social media, all of the all of the conversations, everything that, you know, we're looking at our phones every 2 seconds to be like, holy crap, what did he say now? And I think that's something that us as Republicans have come to understand. And I think with specifically from what your screen says with the January 6th, the committees and the hearings and everything, for me personally, I feel from an unbiased perspective, I don't think it's a winning issue for Democrats because I think a majority of the American people are kind of over it in the sense where they know that, yeah, you know what, even me personally, I love Trump's policies. I did not like his rhetoric. I didn't like the way he spoke. I didn't like Obama's policies at all. But the one thing I really admired about him was the way he spoke. He spoke very eloquently. And I think that the same thing is that majority of Americans, whether you're left or right, have come to realize that, yeah, Trump is just Trump. And
So I gotta ask, I do gotta move it on, but before I do, I want to ask you this one last question in regards to you liking Trump's policies, the economy. You mentioned the way he handled things on the global stage. What about DeSantis? If it came down to you personally as a voter, if in the primaries, if it was Trump versus DeSantis, who would you go for?
personally, for me, that'd be a really tight race. I'd have to go with DeSantis. I'm from Florida actually, so but I'd have to go with DeSantis primarily because at the moment I like where his mind is right. I like where he's going, mentioning the parental rights of kids and their education and their health decisions and everything that goes along with that without getting too much into it. I think he's a more tamed version of what Trump could be if he would cool it down a
And
little
that's
bit.
why I asked you. And that right there, that statement you just said is a more tame Trump. Because you mentioned you like the policies of Trump, but
Yeah.
the looking at your phone and the tweets and shit like that. And that's why I asked you that because you're going to get most of the same policies without having to worry about what's coming on your phone. I got to move it on, though, Nico. Give you the last word. This our first time talking?
Yeah, first time talking. I came across you. And I heard the conversations you were saying, and I love it. I'm following you, so I can join in next time you're on. I definitely love when people can get on and connect and to have these conversations, regardless if people agree or not. That's the beauty of this country and why we're the best country in the world is that we can talk to each other. And at the end of the day, whether or not we see eye to eye, we are both American and we bleed red, white, and blue.
100%. Absolutely. Good talk. You're always welcome back. Come on through. All right.
You have a
Going back. Go ahead.
I said you have a blessed Sunday and a blessed week.
Absolutely. You too.
Looking in the comments real quick before we go back to the box. As you can see on the monitor behind yours truly, we're asking 2 questions. But before I get to that, I've been kind of playing what we were discussing because I thought this was interesting. Here we go.
Thanksgiving. We are days away from Thanksgiving. What is Thanksgiving? Galatians 6 talks about it. Be not deceived, God is not mocked. For whatever a man soweth, thus shall he reap. Those who have planted evil seeds, they are about to get evil upon their own heads. Those who have planted good seeds are about to be blessed beyond measure. We are here. We're going to go dark, and when the lights come on, worldwide celebrations are coming. We are going to see the return this year. 45 comes back. Not by his will, but by God's will. God's will shall be done. God gets all the glory.
God is giving all the glory to Trump. Trump coming back. I see Curlin in the comment. Curlin 96, I see you. That's funny. Shay Slay, same thing, but God. Curlin, that was funny. But Trump coming back. This year, not later, not 2024, this year.
Beyond measure. We are here. We're going to go dark, and when the lights come on, worldwide celebrations are coming. We are going to see the return this year. 45 comes back. Not by his will, but by God's will. God's will.
In the comments, Francie Prancy, a friend of the program, MAGA Indeed, says, please understand that they do not represent Republicans or MAGA. You know where this was stated? This actually happened at a Trump gathering. A Trump gathering that Trump's son spoke at. This was a speaker at a Trump gathering. So, Fancy Prancy, when you say that this does not represent Republicans or MAGA, Eric Trump and Michael Flynn headlined this conference where this was spoken at. So I'll leave you with that and let you work with that. But anyway, I'm going right back to the box because today the comment we're discussing, you guys got me up to 10,000 likes, but don't let your thumbs be lazy. Tap the screen. Your boy could use 15,000 likes. I don't know if MAGA is running from this topic, but make no mistake about it. For you guys who are new to the program, I do not ban, block, or censor someone for their comments. The idea that you may disagree with the host does not mean a damn thing. I'll give you time in the box. I'll let you state your point, and I don't talk down to my guests. We don't have to agree. The whole purpose of this is, even in this little tiny corner of social media, the actual proof that both sides of the aisle can have a civilized conversation. That's what we do here, folks. So understand this is not an echo chamber. Despite the name of your host, you're not going to see me promoting everything liberal and bashing all Republicans. We don't do that here. I hold up the hat all the time to say this is a MAGA-friendly program. MAGA are my preferred guests. So don't ever worry about the name. Come on in, chat a while. Unapologetic black man. Certainly a friend of the program. Always.
Janet. Good afternoon.
Good afternoon, sir.
Trump coming back later this year. What do you think?
First off, I heard the video you just played. I
Yeah.
I see the topics behind you, man. You just threw a whole picnic of bullcrap at me, didn't you? Now, okay, now look. We can talk about all that, but first, I'm gonna have to pull a Mad Hatter move on you, and I'm gonna have to bring your ass out that rabbit hole. All right, because everybody in Alice in Wonderland,
Talk to me.
everybody's in Alice in Wonderland. Like, okay, that whole Christianity, MAGA movement, if you're going to ignore it, this is what we mean by not letting your party be radicalized. And this is openly. You cannot keep letting the massive majority of your party be okay with this. I mean, I'm 41 years old. I'm not used to a Republican Party like this. We're not saying that it's never been around. There's always been evangelists around. It's always had the radical Christian groups around in the churches. But now they've infiltrated an entire party. We can't let this
But
go.
what about Francie Prancy in the comments suggesting that the video you heard does not represent Trump or MAGA or Republicans, that is just some fringe element and that does not represent the party. How do you take that?
I mean, not to disrespect that person, but I don't take anybody serious with a name like that, Fancy Print. Like, I'm not taking that. Anything coming from that, I
It's
can't.
just a name.
I understand it, but with a grain of salt. That name, come on, just be. But again,
All right.
saying that, like you mentioned, this is not a once in a lifetime thing. This is happening consistently. This has happened with Marjorie Taylor Greene. This has happened with Lauren Berber. They're loving people and promoting people like Nick Fuentes and white nationalists. So if we're going to keep on ignoring, again, I'm big on being adult. Be adult about it. Like we see the white nationalists and the radicals are literally rubber elbows with you assholes. Like, come on now.
Rubbing elbows with assholes. Okay, so how do you respond to the counterpoint? Tiger Lily in the comments is suggesting that the left, us liberals, are also radicalized, and she used AOC and Omar and folks like Bernie Sanders as an example. Do you see Bernie Sanders as radicalized as well? I mean, he is promoting socialism.
I don't ever deny that there are radicals on the left, but because of the terminologies they use doesn't make them radicals. If you haven't read any of AOC's or Ilion's or, as they say, the squad, if you haven't read any of their policies and or Biden's or Bernie's,
Right.
don't use vague terms like socialism and communism if you don't understand the stepping stones and or the policies that they're trying to implement in a society which is much needed. Now, don't get me wrong, I am not for full-on communism, but we already have over 100 amazing socialism programs working great in America, from our train system to our medical system. Socialism is needed. Communism is a choice. If you want to be a part of a community and or a group of people that want to implement communistic laws and within their community, I don't see anything wrong with that either.
All right,
If you
fair.
can
Well,
have huge
well,
MAGA rallies, then what the hell wrong with a communist community? Like, leave them people alone. If the baker want to make some bread so the repairman can fix his motor, what's wrong with that community? I don't see anything wrong with barter systems like that, which people don't understand. That's what communism is. It's just a barter system. People, stop letting words scare you.
well, it's certainly unapologetic indeed, black men. So, what about this comment? Goldman 65, because being an African American, like yours
Hmm.
truly, he's stating that Trump did too much for blacks. He didn't say Trump did more for blacks than anyone else. His response is Trump did too much for black people. How do you
And
view that?
he sounds like me when I'm talking to my wife. My wife
What
be
is it?
like, your ass didn't do nothing. I be like, I do too much around this house. She like, your ass don't do nothing. Go take that garbage out. Trump, that's what Trump did. Trump said he did a lot for people, but I can go on the internet. I can go through a lot of research and I can see he said he was going to do a lot. He
Right.
presented like he was going to do a lot. But then again, it goes back to like I said, and I'm not racist. I don't want to bring it into a racial thing, but I'm tired of white people telling us who our influential black people are, who our leaders are, who we should look up to. Because you brought Kodak Black and Lil Wayne and Kanye West in your office and said, and Ice Cube and said this about this damn platinum program, which you never. The second day Trump wiped his ass with that damn plan that Ice Cube put on his desk, like we know he didn't.
What about Candace Owens? You think Candace Owens is our savior? I gotta throw her name out there.
Again, I don't care if 80 I don't care if every black person except for the 3% black conservatives tell you that we do not like Candace Owens. White people would tell us, but you should listen. She said some really truth. You don't tell us who to listen to. Now, if I tell you to go look up black people, we like listen to people like John Africa, Shirley Chisholm, Dr.
Yeah.
James Beverly. We name people like that, and they're like, oh, I don't like him. He's a Marcus. Yeah, you don't like anybody that the black. It's just weird that again, it feels like the 1960s again, where white people were comfortable with telling black people who to vote for, how to walk, how to act, where to work, wear your hair like this, look down when you're talking to me. Are you on the
But
curb with me? What the
what
hell?
about the idea? I believe it's because someone said 3%, but I believe about 25 to 30% of African Americans did vote for Trump. How do you see that?
In a larger demographic around the United States, it was only about 7% that voted for Trump.
I don't know about it. Wait. I'm talking about overall. I believe Trump got about 25 to 30% of the black vote. What are you're saying? What is it? Some areas? What are you
No,
countering
I
with?
mean in red areas, he got 23% of like black vote. In a From every 50 states, there was only 7% of black people that voted
Oh, okay.
in favor
All
of
right.
Trump.
Okay,
But
fair enough.
in, like you said, Republican ran areas, Republican red cities, he got a large amount of black votes in those cities. And within which I can't stand entertainers and, you know, black people and people of color who have a nice, equity. They have generational wealth. They have the tax cuts that Trump gave them. So they voted in his favor
Okay, I see.
ignorantly. But
So,
at
so I
least I can
obviously
give them the benefit of the doubt that they were honest and say, y'all voted for him for the damn tax cuts. Like I give those people honest.
I mean, some people are voting based on the economy. I would submit to you that if Biden had a better economy, his midterm projections would not be so poor. But what about speaking of the midterms? On the monitor you see behind me, does
Yes, sir.
January 6th mean anything to you? Is January 6th affecting your vote at all? And what I mean by that is folks who are currently running for office that are suggesting that Biden cheated or that Trump won outright. If someone was running for office and you had a choice to vote for them or someone else, and that person was saying that Biden is an illegitimate president and that Trump actually won, would that phrase alone affect your vote at all?
Oh, that's definitely gonna affect a lot of people votes, regardless if they admit it or not. I know conservatives that I work with. I work at a steel mill. I program lasers, and a lot of the guys there are conservatives, and they are concerned about it because of their kids. You have to remember that some people, a lot of conservatives, a lot of Republicans do their research. They don't just stick to, that one rabbit hole, that Fox, that OAN, that News. So a lot of conservatives want to know what their politicians from the local all the way to the Supreme Court are doing about their daughters. Uh, I know a lot of men that are concerned about their daughters. They're concerned about their kids. They're concerned about their taxes. And if you once again do a simple tap 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 on the screen instead of yelling red wave and type in red policies, and you'll see they're trying to take your Social Security. They're trying to add taxes. They're trying to
But
take away
how do you
your
defend?
Medicare.
Okay, but how do you defend the Biden's economy? Because that's why people are moving away and looking to
Now
vote
that's
red. The economy.
once again, if we're going to talk about economy, then I will suggest people to try to have a full conversation and analyze the economy, because the Biden wasn't handed a great economy. Biden wasn't handed a true transition will help with economy. Last time our government was had a delay or stall transition, 9/11 happened.
Okay, but here's let me rephrase that. When I say people are concerned with the Biden economy, let's go with what you said. Let's say everything what you just said is true. Biden was not handed a good economy. Well, the problem is the economy got worse than what he was handed. So, in other words, whatever the economy was like when he took office, January of 2021, it's worse than that now. So
Yeah,
it's actually gotten worse under his watch. How you
yeah.
blame all that on Trump?
Oh, no, 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 no. What I said was he was handed a horrible economy. We were already pretty much in a recession where a lot of people are off. Now, if you're
Okay.
saying his
He's made it no
policies,
better. Is what I'm saying
yeah, yeah,
is
yeah,
what
yeah,
I'm
yeah.
saying is
Oh, no, no, no. I agree. I agree. That's why I love the way that everybody, like, I love the way you stated that. You said under Biden, and I said that he was not given a good economy. Now, I'm
okay.
talking about handing something off. You're speaking of under Biden, and I'm saying under Biden, the economy has not gotten any better. I agree with you.
It's gotten worse.
Yes, yes, it has gotten worse. But what I can say, as I know, I've done just a pinch of research. I know that Biden also has made at least 3 bills to try to combat, from baby formula to child care to fair taxes to even our tariff war with China that people don't even know we're still freaking going through. He's at
Well,
least tried to combat it, and we've all seen every 50 Republicans vote against combating. So this shows you that they want the economy to suck until the midterms.
and I agree with that. I got to move it on. I'll give you the last word, but I agree with what you're saying that they want the economy to suck under Biden. Well, we don't want Trump to succeed. That's just politics. But the point I'm trying to just simply trying to make to you is that all of the stuff you're naming that Biden tried to do, the 3 bills and stuff like that, at the end of the day, when that person go to cast their ballot, they're going to look at their wallet, they're going to look at their 401k, and they're going to vote based on that. All of the, you know what, we know what they say, trying doesn't win the game. You either won or you didn't. And at the end of the day, saying I tried, but the Republicans blocked me, people are not that deep into politics oftentimes to dig into those deep levels. But I give you the last word.
I can agree with you on that. I am big on most of the new politics that people are spewing on the internet are new to politics. These people don't know anything about the Republican Party. I don't see how. I think my count, I'm up to 1,783 Republicans that are rhinos now. Like these people. These people
That's bad.
dedicated. These people have dedicated their. You hear me, answer, These people dedicated their lives to the Republican Party. Most of them have voted 95%
Yeah.
plus towards the Republican Party. These people are die heart families, nepotism, all
Yeah.
just embedded in there. And now these people are going to be next to me and you saying defund.
I don't have an
Defund
answer for that. I gotta go though. I don't have an answer for that. I agree with you 100% that
And can I
too
say
much
one
of the
thing about the
Republican
voting?
Party is being viewed as rhinos.
Can I say one thing about the voting?
Sure, go ahead and wrap it up.
Please, everybody, go look up the red states laws that they're trying to pass regarding Black and people of color communities. There's more than 253 around 22 states. That's reducing mailboxes, reducing polling places, reducing hours so we can stand in long lines. They're suppressing our vote again. Like I said, 1964, 53% of America didn't want integration and or us to have voting rights. And Republicans
I'll
are
take a look at it.
publicly doing it again. They're
I'll
doing it
take a look
again.
at it. It may be the subject of a future show. And by the way, send me what you got. Good talk.
Gotcha.
Catch you later. All right. All right.
Comments, because mail-in voting allows for cheating, says Patriots MQ. You know something? That's an interesting point. When I went and cast the ballot yesterday, voted early, and that was my first thing on my mind, is because there's been so much cry about you should only be able to vote on election day. I thought about all of that when they were asking me for my ID. I gave them my ID. Then they're checking the signatures, asking me my name over and over again, my address. And I will tell you something. I understand the goal is to protect the integrity, of the election. I understand that. But there's only so many checks and balances you can enact before you start making me feel like a damn criminal. I'm just here to cast a damn ballot. I'm not trying to cheat. To me, it's almost like stop and frisk to some degree. I understand your goal is to reduce crime, but I'm not doing shit. Get your hands out of my pocket. And that's what I didn't. To me, I felt like you get to a certain point where you're going overboard. And I got to come to my MAGA folks, and I always invite you guys to tell me, tear me a new one or whatever. But what pisses me off, being a liberal, is that I strongly believe, and I understand you guys disagree, but I strongly believe all the fuss is over nothing. So you're doing all of this shit, like I said, it's like stopping and frisking me over somebody making up a lie that somebody in the neighborhood is robbing shit that looks like me. The whole thing is done over a fucking lie. Now, you can tell me I'm wrong about that, and I won't stop you. I always invite that. But when you got folks like Steve Bannon on tape suggesting that Trump is going to claim the election is stolen, whether it is or isn't, and he was the actual strategist for the Trump campaign, and I've played that clip on here numerous times where Steve Bannon actually said that on election day he's going to come out and say he won. It doesn't mean he's winning. He's just going to say it. Steve Bannon said that. So I just have a hard time with the folks complaining that the election and stuff like that was stolen when the actual strategist made it clear he was going to allege that if things didn't go his way. I just don't like it. Let me go to the box. Maybe somebody can tell me where I'm getting it wrong. Savannah Lynn, 9-3 and Ultra MAGA. I see you. Looking forward to talking to you.
Savannah, good
Hi,
afternoon.
how are you?
I don't even know. What's up with these midterms? I don't know.
I don't know. I do live on the Florida-Alabama line, so obviously I do live in Florida. I live in Matt Gates's.
Oh,
He's my representative, and
okay.
I do live in Florida. So therefore, obviously DeSantis already has a 7.7 point lead in the tolls versus Charlie Crist, which we all knew that was going to happen because Charlie Crist has been our governor before and he hasn't done anything. So, the only thing that I have to say, I wanted to piggyback not on the one that you had before me, but the one before that, where he's
Okay.
like, well, we all know that Trump had, like Nico when I first came in. We all know Trump had a very crass way of saying things. But then again, Trump was from New York. Who from New York do you not know that doesn't have a crass attitude?
Wait. You believe calling Elizabeth Warren Pocahontas over and over again when the Native Americans are saying it's insulting as crass? That's how you refer to that as
I
crass?
didn't know about that.
That's insulting. That's not crass. You're trying
But
to
then
be
you have,
insulting to somebody.
he was insulted every day for 4
Okay.
years. He was
Okay,
also
so
insulted by Kathy Griffin having a fake Donald Trump head covered in blood while she's holding it, taking pictures. You can't
I
say
don't
that he doesn't
disagree.
deserve any kind of clapbacks.
No, well, yes, I do. To answer your question, if somebody's attacking you, I think you deserve to have the right to attack back. What I disagree with is the idea that he does not deserve consequences. As folks on the right say, my MAGA folks say all the time, if Trump gets hit, he hits back 10 times harder. If an old lady hits me and I hit her back 10 times harder, you don't think there's going to be some consequences for that? You think I'm going to get
Yeah,
up and say, this
there would
old
have
lady
been.
hit me first?
And this dude was hung at stake pretty much every single day he stepped foot to go give a speech. Like every
Well,
day.
what about Trump suggesting throughout Obama's term that he was not born in the country? You don't think that that may have had something to do with him being attacked from day one?
He might have. It might have. But then again, you also have to take from where Trump's from as well. Like you mean to tell me that you have never had a New Yorker be as open-minded and as loud as Trump is to your face?
I've talked to idiots in Montana. I've been all over the country. I agree that some folks may be a bit boisterous. I'm just simply saying what I told you in the beginning of our conversation. You can say whatever you want, but there's going to be consequences. You don't get up there and act like an idiot and people go, "Well, are you just from New York?" If you're being an idiot to people, there's going to be consequences. Nobody's giving you some type of overlook because you just happen to be from New York. No, you either
Yeah.
fix that. And here's another thing I have to ask you. With Trump being so successful as a businessman, literally having real estate properties, golf courses all over the country, do you think that he's going into boardrooms and going into international deals talking to people like that?
No, he's not.
Then why can't he do it as president?
You got me there. But I am full hearted for DeSantis. I think DeSantis would be a great president. I don't see him leaving the state of Florida yet though. Because there's so much more that needs to be done here. He has even said that with this whole CDC thing, that he's already stated that he will go kicking and screaming before they try to mandate it in our schools. He's very for parents' rights when it comes to our medical standpoint on schooling and whatnot. He's very for parents' rights.
Okay. Well,
And
obviously, with the name of the program, I'm clearly a liberal, but I will tell you that I do believe if you guys go with DeSantis and a more moderate Republican like a Nikki Haley or somebody like that, 2024 is yours to win. However, for us liberals, our best, biggest, shining, brightest benefit is that it appears as if you guys are going to send that New Yorker you're talking about that talks shit
exactly.
to everybody. So
That's
we're
that's
hoping you
where
stay on
but
that
then
path. Go ahead.
that's the thing though, is that a lot of people are thinking Trump as well, but then if we throw a curveball and throw DeSantis in there, but that's the thing that the media I think is trying to catch up, because who does the Democratic Party have that is a strong forehead for the next election? Who do they have?
That's a good question. Right now, it's still 2+ years out, and you never know who could come to the forefront because two years before the 2016 election, in which Trump won, this would be right now December 2014. And at that point in time, Trump was not a candidate. So if we had asked the same thing about the Republican Party,
Yeah,
you guys at that point was talking about Jeb Bush. So
yeah,
I don't know. It's hard. You don't know what may come out in the next couple of years. You just don't know because, like I said, at this point,
exactly.
Trump had not came down the escalator yet.
Yeah, we don't really have a forehead as well, but they do know how strong DeSantis is, and they know how strong his governorship has been in the state of Florida. And they've seen people literally, and a lot of people like to say it's because of taxes and whatnot, move from their closed down states down to Florida.
Yeah.
And
I'll tell you this. In regards to your question about who do we have, and I stated you don't know who may come out. I'll tell you, if Michelle Obama announced she was running, you guys would be dead. That's the one person I think that
and
would win hands down. If she announced that she won, you don't have enough rounds in the chamber to get through the armor. I think she would just destroy it. But she's not going to run, hopefully for you guys.
See, I don't know. See, I'm full force for feminism. I got that, but I don't believe that a woman could be good as president.
Why
I'm a
not?
female.
Why
We
not?
run off of emotions. We're very irrational and we run off emotions.
All these people Trump is attacking, calling Rosie O'Donnell a fat pig in the middle of a debate, and you don't see no emotions coming from Trump? You don't see any of that insulting that's out of pure emotion?
You do, but Rosie O'Donnell has been blasting him every day on TikTok for the past 5 years because of it. So,
Well,
what's the point?
you're responding to this stuff with he started it. Kind of reminds me of the old Life cereal commercial. Hey, Mikey, he likes it. He'll try anything. You, as president, you don't get to attack anybody who attacks you under the guise where they started it. You are going to be judged at a higher level than some actress or some high school kid tweeting about you. I agree with what you're saying. If you're attacked, you should be able to respond. But as a president, you know you're being judged to a different level. You can't just jump in the mud with anybody who flings dirt at you.
Yeah, I understand he should have held it up to a higher business-like profession.
Yeah.
But I don't know.
Trump versus Michelle Obama. You think Trump would beat her?
No, DeSantis versus Michelle Obama would be a battle.
Ooh, I don't even think DeSantis could beat Michelle Obama. Not with Obama going around the country, getting half of Hollywood, half of the music.
What about Tulsi Gabbard? What about Tulsi Gabbard or Nikki Haley versus Michelle Obama?
I don't think either one would hold a candle. I don't think Tulsi Gabbard is even worth the conversation. Nikki Haley, I believe, is a good politician. Tulsi Gabbard just literally switched parties. To me, Tulsi Gabbard is very similar to Liz Cheney right now. She's a politician without a party. The party she represents does not like her, and the one she's going to does not want her. That applies to both.
Then what about Kristi Noem from South Dakota?
Not known well enough. Doesn't have a name recognition. You realize how much name recognition people like DeSantis and particularly Michelle Obama has? In 2 years, you're not going to get Noem to catch up with that. The name recognition is off the chain for Michelle Obama. People in other countries know who the hell she is. Nikki Noem, now in 2 years, she would obviously get a lot of notoriety, but catching up to Michelle Obama or even the likes of Ron DeSantis at this point, I can't see it. She's cute,
yeah,
though.
it would probably if it's not Trump versus Michelle, it'll probably be DeSantis versus Michelle.
So I need to know
unless they have a Trump DeSantis ticket.
Trump no, that ain't gonna happen. Way too much alpha shit on that. That's like sitting there eating testosterone cereal without milk. I can't see that going down. But real quick, so you
that would be a fight, man. Can you imagine?
Yeah.
Michelle. What's her name? Kamala Harris and Joe Biden in the office. They're already fighting a lot. Can you imagine Trump and DeSantis in the office together?
No.
Oh
no,
my
I can't.
God.
I will. I gotta move it on, but I'll tell you this before I let you go. To me, DeSantis has so much respect and adoration in the Republican Party, and he's young. He should steer his career completely clear of President Trump. President Trump is in the sunset of his life, his political career, and all of that, and he's very controversial. Let Trump decide what he's going to do for 2024, and you can step up in 2028. If I was DeSantis or an advisor to DeSantis, I would tell him, do not mix your career with this guy. Do not let this guy hurt you. Let him have 2024. You're young enough to do it in 2028, and just stay away from that guy.
That's what I was also going to say, is because even if like DeSantis and Trump were the two Republicans on the ticket, that means that they would have to debate each other. That means that with DeSantis would have to go against his word that he said the past 4 years and tell everything that Trump has done wrong in his presidency.
Yeah, wow.
And I don't
that's a hell of a statement. I didn't think of that. Wow.
Yeah,
All right,
because
Savannah,
they would
I
have to
got to move it
debate
on.
each other for the running ticket.
Yeah, and also DeSantis would have to deal with the weight of MAGA. That would be a disaster for DeSantis.
Yep.
Savannah, got to move it on.
All right, bye.
Good talk. Okay, and yeah,
Like I said, I'll go right back to the box, but yeah, even as a liberal, if I had to advise DeSantis, I would tell him right off the bat, you got a really long future ahead of you in politics. Steer clear from Trump. I mean, I understand Trump is the shit right now in the Republican Party, that's fine. But you are on the throne for the second spot. Let him do whatever the hell he's got to do, and you can either in 2028 come across as someone who is going to continue doing the good he did, or if he fucks up, you can come along and say, I'm not going to give you any more of that. But let him do what he got to do and stay away from him. And in that way, you can assume MAGA and all of that as fans, as opposed to foes if you go against Trump. Going back to the box, what does it say? Graph Digital says that's because GOP is the shit. If GOP was the shit, you wouldn't have Trump in Mar-a-Lago taking a shit while using his account. He would be in the White House. So I don't know about GOP being the shit. They didn't exactly do well in 2016. Ultra MAGA. I always love
dictates he's MAGA friend of the program. Ultra MAGA, welcome back.
Hey, how you doing?
I'm doing good. Good to hear from you again, man. Tell me what I'm getting wrong.
Well, I want to get back to that Pocahontas with Trump.
Okay.
I think the reason why he called her Pocahontas is because she lied on an application to better
Yeah,
her
that's true.
career by going to college.
100% true.
However,
However,
she used the
she
system to
did
try.
that on a law school application in 1986. She lied and said she had Native American blood. She's been caught. She apologized, and the Native Americans are not happy with Trump doing that. Now, in a debate, I could understand him throwing around the word Pocahontas to derail her in the debate. However, it's now been 6 years later, and he still occasionally does that. The joke is over with at this point. At this point, it's just bullying. So I don't see how long you get to continue bringing up the fact that she lied on the law school application. I'm black. I get told all the time, you guys need to get over what happened in the past. What she did is like 40 years ago. How long do you get to bring that up?
Oh no, I agree. I'm just going by why he said it. If that makes
Okay,
sense.
I agree with that. Okay,
Yeah,
fair enough.
why
Fair
he
enough.
said it. He didn't just come out and
Okay,
say it because of
that
what
is
was done.
true. So January 6th, you see what's on the monitor behind me. January 6th. If you had a candidate running for office that is suggesting that Trump actually won the election and Biden is illegitimate, would that candidate running for office saying something like that, would that affect your vote at all?
It would not. Nope.
Okay.
It would not, because you got to remember too is that they play it on both sides of the aisle, because
Mm-hmm.
when Trump won the presidency, Hillary Clinton was running around saying that he was an illegitimate president. So it happens on both sides. They didn't want to recognize Trump as president. As you've seen what happened, in January 2017, when they were burning the American flags in front of the Capitol building, and they were going into the Capitol building. So it's no different, I believe, than what happened in January 6th.
Wait a minute. You're saying that what happened in 2017 at the Capitol building is no different than what happened on January 6th when Ashley Babbitt lost her life, cops are getting the shit beat out of them. You're telling me it's the same as that?
Well, the problem is with that whole Ashley Babbitt and stuff like that. Remember that those people were let in by the officers. If you look at
All of them?
yeah, but a majority of them, I just think it got out of control when they started letting them into the Capitol. I honestly think that they were involved as well, because you should have had protection at that Capitol, which they did not. They refused.
What about the ones beating cops over the head with fire extinguishers? Flagpoles.
Like I said, it got out of control with that, but it came through where the officers were letting them in.
Well,
They
which leads to but that leads to the obvious question. If I let you in my house, why the hell you beating my ass? I let you in.
yeah, well, the thing is that you have certain people that act differently. It's not if you let a bunch of people in your house and then you have a few of them
A
that act up.
couple,
But yeah, but
a couple.
you didn't have everybody that January 6th that acted up. You just had some boneheads that actually acted up as well. You know what I mean? There was a lot of boneheads that were on that night. You know,
Yeah, and that's what the question I'm trying to find out is if you're pissed off with the election officials for how the election was handled, you pissed off with Nancy Pelosi in Congress and things like that, and the Capitol Police let you in the building. I'm trying to find out how does anyone decide that maybe I should beat up a Capitol Police officer? He's on your side. I don't see how that. I don't even see what would make even a bonehead act in that manner.
I don't like I said, I don't know. I mean, there's boneheads that act up all the time. I mean, it's just you know, you just can't explain that.
How did the Confederate flag end up walking around the Capitol building? What does that have to do with the election integrity?
I don't know, and we don't know if it was a MAGA guy either.
You
We
think
don't
a Black Lives Matter guy happened to walk
we
in the
don't
Capitol
no.
building with a
It could have
Confederate flag?
it could have been anybody that held that flag. Not to say that it was Black Lives Matter. It could have been somebody that just was acting like an idiot, you know, and wanted to be part of that movement. But we don't have
I
proud.
don't even, I was in D.C. myself a couple months ago, and I, was buying different things. You can buy an American flag anywhere. I bought some of the shirts with the presidential logo that I sometimes wear on the program. I don't even know where you would go to buy a Confederate flag if you're in D.C. So I'm trying to figure out because you're talking about you don't know if it was somebody else who just got the flag. You don't see any possibility that was orchestrated, like somebody deliberately came there that represents MAGA. You thinking that it's possible that the guy flying that flag may not have been MAGA?
Yeah, it's a possibility. It's a possibility. I mean, there was so many people at that thing. I don't think that they were all MAGA. I just think that people started seeing people going into the buildings. I just think that there was a lot more people that were involved than we know about.
Could be. I mean, I'm seeing folks climbing through the windows and stuff like that. But I guess I'd have to ask you this question. If it wasn't for Trump making the statements he did leading up to January 6th, do you think January 6th would have still happened?
I think it would have. I mean, because all he said is that we should march and let our voices be heard. He never once say break into the Capitol. That never came out of his mouth.
What
So
about Rudolph Giuliani? Let's have trial before combat. He said that before Trump spoke. Now, Trump spoke. Trump was essentially the headliner at a concert full of speakers. So the speakers before Trump, Rudolph Giuliani, for instance, saying let's have trial by combat. How would you view that? If you're talking to an angry crowd, a few of them seem to have a noose out there that they want to put the vice president in or a gallows. How do you view him telling that crowd, let's have trial by combat? What do you think he
oh,
meant?
I don't agree. I don't agree with it of what was said. I don't condone any of that stuff, but it happens on both sides. I mean, with the Maxine Waters, and you know,
And
and you
you
have,
guys you guys want
you know what I
Maxine
mean.
Waters held accountable.
So that's what I mean is that so it's kind of like rhetoric on both sides, which we don't need in this country. We don't need both sides doing what they're doing, and that goes to show maybe these Congress people that are in office, the Congress, the Senate, maybe they should have term limits because a lot of these are too old to be in there, and they have all this power. Maybe that's what it is because I mean, this rhetoric from both sides of the party. I don't agree with all the rhetoric that goes on from either side.
So do
You
you
know,
think Trump is too old to come back?
I think he is. My guy would be DeSantis if DeSantis threw his hat in the ring. But if Trump is there, I'm not vote. I won't vote for a Democrat only because of the policies. They don't line up with what I stand for.
That makes sense. And that makes sense. So
So
if it came down to DeSantis or Trump, you would go with DeSantis.
I would go if it was DeSantis and Trump in there. I would go with DeSantis because I think he's younger, he's more well spoken, and what he's done in Florida, I think it has really been the best for this country. I mean, I just think he's a leader. He's a leader, and I think he would be the best candidate to run for office.
Now I'm gonna throw this at you, and I'll let you handle it any way you want. In the comments, Carolyn96 said this dude could not fully explain a single policy. Give me some policies that you favor from DeSantis. I'm gonna hold you on the spot for the comment. Give me something about DeSantis policy wise that you favor.
Well, I agreed. I agreed with him shipping the migrants to Martha's Vineyard.
You came with that? Oh my God.
I think what he did with them. Um, he also cleared a natural emergency way before that hurricane even came in. To call a state of an emergency. He's not allowing the CRT in the schools from kindergarten till K through 6. So he's doing a lot of things that I like what's going
Okay.
on.
All right.
I keep track of Florida too because I do have a vacation home in Florida, so I keep
All right.
track of what's going on in Florida as well. So I think DeSantis is America's governor. To be honest, I think.
I definitely believe that Floridians seem to be happy with DeSantis, and certainly folks on the right. I won't put him in America's governor category just yet because I do think that when you start getting into social policies, that's what has historically screwed Republicans up. Now it's starting to do the same thing with Democrats because of all the wokeness and cancel culture. But Republicans have oftentimes been their main flaw is getting involved in social policies. Like in Florida, for instance, there's a push to get rid of Juneteenth. That has nothing to do with making America great again. Why even get involved in some shit like that? And it's little stuff like that, that I believe a lot of Republican politicians do that can literally snatch or what do they call it, snatch and defeat from the jaws of victory. Getting involved in things that does not help anything out other than just caters to a small portion of the base and has no benefit in regards to making the country better.
Well, you got to look at a lot of holidays too. I mean, and a lot of history being erased too in this country. With statues being taken down. Columbus Day is no longer Columbus Day; it's Indigenous People
What
Day.
is Columbus Day? What is Columbus Day even meant to commemorate?
Well, Columbus Day. I mean, that's been around for years with
I
him
didn't
in there.
ask. I didn't ask how long it's been around. I said, what was it meant to commemorate? I mean, slavery was around for years. That don't mean it was right. I mean, what is
Oh
Columbus
no,
Day meant to commemorate?
I agree with that, but I just think that people are just getting, they're just pandering to their base is what they're doing. I mean, just
Let me ask you this: if you find out you have been honoring something, as you say, for years, and you find out it's based on a lie, should you just keep honoring it because it's what you've been doing?
I mean, I guess you got a point there. I mean,
Yeah,
it's the same thing. It's the same thing if you want to talk about Roe versus Wade. Wasn't that based on a lie as well?
they got rid of it.
Yeah, well,
It's gone.
that's what I'm saying. You know what I mean? It's just I just think that this country's doomed. I just think if we get another Democrat in there, I think we're in some serious trouble. I mean, you got to remember too is that when people are talking about what Trump did and Biden inherited an economy before the pandemic even came about, Trump had the economy one of the best it's ever been in the entire out of all presidents. It's been the best. It had
You
positive.
know, okay, I hear that oftentimes, and I will tell you this. As a working American, I'm not on any form of welfare. I put in an honest 40 hours a week. I lived through Obama. I lived through Clinton. I lived through both Bushes. I was an adult
Yeah, me too.
when George H.W. Bush became president. So I've lived from George H.W. Bush on. I've lived. I don't look at the Trump 4 years in office and say I was doing fantastic, better than. So when folks say the economy was so fantastic under Trump, I'm just going to tell you, as a constituent myself, I did all right. But my income and things like that, I didn't see nothing that was so great about Trump in office, me personally,
Yeah.
compared to what I often hear from MAGA. And I
Yeah.
will say the same thing about most employees. I mean,
Well,
people were still working two jobs and struggling under Trump like they did under everybody else.
yeah. Well. That's the thing is that I'm not one of those guys that were struggling. I mean, I made a lot of money under Trump. A lot
Okay.
of money under Trump. So that's protecting my interest in my family, if that makes sense.
Fair
So
enough.
I
Fair enough.
whatever
It does. It does. It
with,
does.
with
It makes sense to vote for who helped you out the most. I'm just simply saying, on my side of the
yeah,
aisle, I
and
would
I
tell you, go ahead.
I understand. I understand that. I mean, I do what's best for me and my family, and
Right.
that's how I base my decisions on and what we've done. I mean, I'm 47 years old, so I've lived through a lot of that as well. So uh, and and the thing is that I've really, I mean, I wasn't handed anything. Nobody gave me anything. I mean, my mother and father were divorced early, and I started from the bottom. I make very good money now, but it took me about 20 years to make the
Okay.
money. You
Right.
know what I mean? So
Nothing wrong with that.
nothing was given to me. I mean, we own multiple properties now. I mean, nothing was handed to us. And I bought all that under Trump. I made that much money under Trump. So it kind of made me like his policies,
Okay,
because
nothing wrong with that. There's nothing wrong with that. I'm assuming there's going to be a hell of a lot of people that have money invested in alternative energy companies that are going to say the same thing for Biden. It just depends on what you're doing for a living. There are certain industries that are going to be beneficial or harmed under different presidents. For instance, big oil, you want a Republican in office. If you invest in penal institutions, you want a Republican in office. But there are industries also like marijuana, you want a liberal in office. So it just
yeah,
depends on the industry you're in. I got to move it on, though,
I,
Ultra.
I agree. All right,
Go ahead.
perfect. Well, have a great night. I appreciate
Absolutely.
it. Take care. See ya.
You're
Bye.
always welcome back. Good talk. Good talk. Okay, looking in the comments says, who was that? It says, I lost a lot of money under Trump. Listen, I didn't lose a lot of money under Trump, but the tax cuts and things like that. I think it's kind of like what Ultra Mega said. If you own a bunch of businesses, there's no denying that the tax cuts that were offered under the Trump administration helped folks at the top more than folks at the bottom. I believe the best evidence of that is the tax cuts for corporations actually last longer. The ones that were for working class Americans have an ending date, an expiration date that's much shorter than the one for corporations. So clearly depends on where, because he said he owns, he owns a few companies or owns properties and things like that. So yeah, if you're in the upper half, you're among the 20%, 10%, or the 1% of Americans. It probably, yeah. I would assume that if you're basing your vote on your financial well-being and you're in that area, it makes sense to vote for Trump. But if you were working two jobs under Obama, or you were making $15, $16 an hour under Obama and Trump got elected, your salary did not go up. It just didn't, because the Republicans were not even a fan of increasing the minimum wage. So it depends on where you are on the socio-economic scale is what I would say. But because there are plenty of folks who are not looking at the Trump years and saying, I blew up. My name is Kitten, okay? I think we've talked with a name like that, I would have remembered. But my name is Kitten.
Hey
Good
there, handsome
afternoon.
liberal. How are you, my man?
I'm doing good. I'm doing
Good.
good.
So,
As you see on the monitor behind
yeah,
me, does January 6th mean anything to your vote? I'm asking that question.
sure. Yeah, so I will tell you that I'm a veteran. I served in the United States Navy for 6 years, and I made an obligation during my service to support and defend the Constitution, right? So to me,
Mm-hmm.
January 6th is a fascist uprising. Um,
Oh,
it is a fascist uprising, a hostile attempt at the takeover of the United States government through violence, to overthrow a legitimate election.
what do you think would have happened If they, so in other words, if they had got into the halls of Congress, which I believe an African American police officer led them down the wrong hallway, if they had got into a room where most of Congress or the Senate was, what do you believe would have happened?
So,
Those MAGA protesters
okay.
had got into the
So
room.
now understand, you're asking me what I believe. Okay. So this is strictly what I believe. We don't know actually, right? Okay. So
True, true.
I have to assume that since they had gallows set up outside, that they were legitimately going to hang people and kill the
Mm.
vice president just like they were cheering to do. More people would have died, more people would have gotten hurt, and they may have overthrown our democracy at that point. They may have accomplished their mission. You would have had to then bring the military in, right? And then whoever the military sides with, that's the person who's going to end up in charge, because without military power, you can't hold a presidential position.
Wow. So you do believe it could have been a bloodbath of some sort?
Yes,
Oh man.
yes,
But what
absolutely.
about Trump? If they had did all of that, how might Trump had responded? I mean, because they're
He
doing it
loved
over.
it. He loved the
He
whole
what?
thing. They said that he was watching it, that he loved it, he loved what they were doing, he appreciated what was going on, and that he wanted it to happen. I mean, I've been watching the hearings. All of this is being established. It's not like we don't know what happened at this point, right? There are Proud Boys going to jail. They've already
Yeah.
confirmed that the Trump administration is directly implicated in the incident. So I'm not going to sit here and mince words with these people like they can still make excuses for this person. If you are watching the hearings, then you should understand at this point that this was a fascist attempt to take over your government. It was conducted by white supremacists in conjunction with the Trump administration. And all of these people should be held accountable. And the Democrats and the leftists have never done anything equivalent to this in modern history. Nothing.
So, would you watch the hearings, and I've watched them as well? How do you respond to Republicans? I got somebody even in the comments that are suggesting that the January 6th hearings are a joke. I suppose that means they're illegitimate, or the
Well,
hearings are fraudulent, or what? How do you respond to that?
I would say that you're most likely a fascist, so of course you think they're a joke.
Okay. All right. That's a strong statement. I'm going to leave it at that. So, early voting, you think there's any issues to worry about in regards to early voting? People are stating that we should have a election day when everybody casts their ballot on that day because they believe the more ways you let people vote, the more the integrity of the election is placed at risk. Does early voting concern you at all?
No, I mean, there are countries in the world that give several weeks for the voting process to take
Yeah.
place. Americans are hell bent on instant gratification. We want to know right now. We need to know right now. It has to be done right now. So that's part of the problem, right? But really, they said that this was the safest election in all of our elections so far. It was the most secure, right? So
Yeah.
really, the arguments against mail-in voting are not actually legitimate arguments, right? They are made up culture wars by the fascists to limit voting, mostly for minorities, right? That's the real agenda here, is to try and take
Mm.
away voting rights from people, right? To limit your ability, your amount of
Man, I
time
hate
to
hearing
vote.
that. I hate hearing that because, yeah, you're hearing that over and over again that in minority areas it's hard as hell to vote and lines are ridiculously long. And as much as I would want to dispel that or disagree with you, it does seem like in certain areas the difficulty to vote is noticeably worse. I mean, yeah,
You know,
it does seem like there may be some validity to that.
here's the thing you have to realize, right? Both parties are going to try to maximize their voter base, okay? So Democrats do
Right,
play games to get votes, right? And Republicans
right.
play games to get votes, right? But you have to look at the games that they're playing, right? So what games are the Democrats playing to get votes, right? They are trying to get more accessibility for people to vote, okay? So they
Well,
are increasing,
there's one other one you may not like, but I
yeah.
mean, make no mistake about it. Democrats do want immigrants to come in this country in droves because once they become legalized, they know they're going to turn into votes.
Sure, I do too. I want them too because they're an asset to our workforce. I love immigration. I think we need to appoint more immigration judges, have more immigration courts in place so that we can process people more quickly, so that we can get these people into our system, get them working, get them paying taxes, get them benefits that they need, because immigration is a huge part of our society without a
Yeah, but
comprehensive.
what about the idea that for the lower people on the working scale,
Mhm,
letting immigrants in competes with them for labor and drives salaries down? Because
well,
immigrants, legal or otherwise, are willing to work for a lot less. So if you let
so,
in untold amounts of immigrants, even if you legalize them,
mhm.
regular folks are competing with them for those jobs. They're not all picking fruit.
So, well, the first thing I would say is, I'll take a page out of the Republican Party here. If an immigrant places you at your job, I guess you need to become more marketable, right? You need to pull yourself up by
No,
your
no,
bootstraps.
yeah, wait a minute.
You
No,
need to
wait, I
pull
can't,
yourself
I
up by
can't
your
agree with that.
bootstraps, right? And you
No,
got replaced. So if you got replaced by an immigrant who just came into this country at your job, you are obviously not very marketable. You may not be very skilled if an immigrant can just come right over here and replace you at
yeah,
your
but
job.
that's I don't. I gotta totally disagree with you for the simple fact
Okay.
that you get a lot of folks from India that'll come here and they're being they're getting jobs, high level medical jobs as doctors and things like that. You can have
Uh-huh.
a lot of skills. The problem with your marketability is that you're not willing to work for a third of your wages. If an immigrant comes to the country and the
Mhm.
employer knows that this person will work without breaks and lunches or will work for a very low wage, I don't care how much you market yourself. You can't
Okay.
compete with that unless
Yeah.
you're willing to lower your salary.
Okay. And whose fault is that? Whose fault is it that you're dropping your wages and taking these immigrants? Is that the business owner's fault that they are going ahead and
No, they're
hiring
going to
people for
blame that
cheaper
on the
wages?
Democrats.
Well,
They're
of course,
blaming it on
but
the fact that
that's
the
not the
Democrats are
reason, though,
letting
right?
people in.
Yeah, but that's not the reason, though, right? The reason is because you have CEOs who will side with the people who are going to take less money instead of paying a fair wage. That's not the Democrats' fault. That's your capitalism at work, okay? So you
Oh,
have a problem with
I
capitalism.
think I think we're both right. I do believe it's capitalism, but at the same time, the capitalists, the folks who are the capitalists that want this cheap labor need the Democrats to let all of these people in so they'll have access to it. So I think it's
So
both of those answers.
sure. You need to have a comprehensive immigration system, right? At no time am I advocating to just let people walk across the border free at will. You need to but you have to have a certain flow of immigration, right? Because if you don't have enough workforce in this country to keep things going. And I will say this about illegal immigration. Illegal immigrants go where the opportunities are. And the billionaires and the wealthy class, Trump, also hire them. Okay. He hires illegal immigrants at his establishments and gives them those opportunities. So if those opportunities weren't readily available for them, they wouldn't come here.
Okay, I seen something. I hear you, but I seen in the comments. Trex just thought it was kind of funny. Said the GOP should stop playing victim and pick some fruit. All right. Okay. So I get your point about um somewhat about being marketable, but I just believe that the more workers you put into the mix, the more folks are going to have to compete with those workers, and that has a possibility of bringing down wages. And I'm not just
But
talking about folks at the bottom end of the scale. Like I
that,
mentioned, doctors. There are people, engineers. There are plenty of folk coming from other countries to be engineers in all of those levels.
let me get this right then. So people want capitalism where you're supposed to compete, right? It's all about the individual, right? You're supposed
Yeah.
to make yourself. I mean, this is capitalism, folks, right? Okay.
Yeah.
So if you're
Yeah.
mad about that, then you have an issue with capitalism. Okay.
Yeah. I
Maybe
agree with
you need to
that.
take a look at a little bit of socialism.
Yeah, and I've said it before numerous times on this program. Folks complain about the idea of socialism or communism, and I've said it all the time. Even though I'm a fan of capitalism, capitalism without proper checks and balances is no better than any of those other forms of government.
Right.
If you
You're
allow
absolutely right.
capitalists to do whatever the hell they want, you're going to have monopolies. You'll have child labor like we used to. If a person gets sick, they get fired. There would be no worker rights laws and all of that. Capitalism is just as dangerous as any other form you can come up with. And just all you got to do is look at our history. There's
Sure.
a
Sure.
reason why you have botanical gardens and national forests, and the eagle was on the protected species list. Because if you didn't have that shit, capitalists would shoot every eagle they could to make money. They would tear down the rainforest to put condos up. I mean, capitalists are just as bad
Well,
as any
see
of
that.
these other. Yeah.
An argument I often hear from right wingers is about the minimum wage, right? They say, well, the minimum wage is for teenagers out of school, and the minimum wage is for low level, and if you want better, you need to make yourself more marketable, right? So
Right.
really, what the minimum wage is really for is to tell these rich people what they have to pay you, because if they could get away with it, they would pay you less.
True.
So if you don't make them at least pay you something, if they had their way and they could get away with it, they wouldn't pay you at all. Okay?
You're
That's what the
depressing me.
minimum wage is for.
All right, I gotta move it on, but damn, you just depressed the hell out of me. But I agree with you
Sorry, man.
because, yeah, good talk, man. I agree with you. And I'm gonna tell you why.
Um, I've done ride sharing over the years, off and on, between jobs and free time and things like that. And I can tell you, the ride sharing industry, Uber and Lyft, shit like that, they are a prime example of what you would have if we did not have labor laws and workers' rights in this country. Anybody who talk to some of those drivers, find out what those companies have been doing to drivers and things like that, because they have them listed as independent contractors as opposed to employees. And I will definitely tell you, Uber and Lyft, those companies you catch rides with, they are a perfect example of what we would have if you didn't have minimum wage laws and things. Because there are plenty of drivers that are driving and making less than minimum wage. And it's because they're doing a lot of shit behind the scenes, like you just said. They don't want to pay you at all. And I would just use them as an example. Anyway, I'm going to go back to the box, but I want to play you guys what we've been kind of talking about here, because I thought this was interesting. This was said at a Trump gathering in which Eric Jr. and who was the other guy? Mike Flynn spoke at this event.
Surround him, Father, with none of this deep state trash, none of this rhino trash. You'll surround him, people that you pick, with your own mighty hand. In the name of Jesus.
Now he's talking about surrounding Trump. This is at a Trump gathering, and these folks are actually saying a prayer. I don't know if you could hear it really good in the background, but everything he was saying was being repeated by the audience. Put your hands up. I want to thank God for this great day, and then the audience says the same thing. So he's actually saying this. It's almost as if he's saying a prayer.
We come to you in the name of Jesus. We're asking you to open the eyes of President Trump's understanding that he will know the time of divine intervention. He will know how to implement divine intervention. And you will surround him, Father, with none of this deep state trash, none of this rhino trash. You'll surround him.
Look at the hands they have
people
holding
that
up.
you pick with your own mighty hand. In the name of Jesus. The effectual Father God.
That's an actual prayer. So I mean, you see them with their hands up and they're repeating it. So I don't know what else to tell you about that. Anyway, going back to the box, I thought that was interesting. Who was in there? Facts Matter, or did I?
See what I just did. Is Dane? What does that say? Don Hendry said that's scary. I don't know. Trucker Road Rage. Good afternoon.
Hi.
Hey, you're real low. Can you hear me?
I can hear you. Can you not hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you somewhere. Okay, what's on your mind this afternoon?
So I was listening to you this when Ultra Mega, I think it was in the box. When you were saying, well, they were beating up the cops while they were in the Capitol. Correction. Right. They were not in the Capitol when that happened. They were outside the Capitol.
You didn't see the video of the cop being crushed between the door with blood coming out of his mouth inside the Capitol building? You didn't see that video?
No, I didn't. But you were saying that he got hit in the head. They got hit in the head with fire extinguishers and gotten beaten up. Now, if someone falls and there's a bum rush of people, was this the time they were letting people in?
Wait. I don't get that question. You said if somebody falls, repeat that.
I said, was this the time when they were letting people in the Capitol? Or was
Okay.
this another time? Or
Well,
was this another time where they were breaking through the glass and coming in that way?
I don't know which time I don't know which group committed the violence. I don't know because there is a video of the cops letting people in. I agree with you there. However, just like you pointed out, there are also people who were breaking windows, climbing walls, and busting their way in there. So I don't know which group decided to get violent, but I do know that there was violence.
Okay, so did you see the one where the guys were talking to the cops? Hey, stop them from breaking the glass of our Capitol. He's not with us. Did you see that one?
Yeah, I mean, I know all of the protesters were not there to beat cops, but there were obviously plenty of them there doing that.
But they were there to cause trouble. And for some reason, y'all don't think that or it's against the possibility that they're not from MAGA.
Well, the ones who were causing trouble, as you're talking about, most of them were on video. They've been arrested, and when they ended up putting their social media pages and things like that online, they came across as MAGA. In fact, just like the left has had their version of this stuff, the right has had their version as well. Hold on a second. All of the folks who have been, hang on a second, all of the folks that have been arrested in regards to the Capitol building, we know who the people are. So MAGA can analyze and investigate the folks as well. I'm not even hearing MAGA suggest that most of the people who have been arrested are not MAGA. They're not even denied it. In fact, Trump is talking about pardoning them.
Well, for one, he can't pardon anybody that has not been charged yet.
But why suggest it?
I don't know. Probably because they were walking in when the cops let them in and not done any damage to the place.
Well, we don't.
I mean, if it was those grannies walking in the velvet robes, just looking and taking pictures, do you not think that they were let in? Do you think that they need to be prosecuted for the fullest extent of the law?
No, I don't think anyone that was let in alone is a crime. But if you're let in and while you're in there, you're chanting out about killing the vice president and things like that, yeah, you need to be dealt with.
Okay, so did Trump say he was going to pardon all of them or some of them?
So that's a good. Well, he said he was going to look into pardon, so we don't know who he was talking about pardoning. He just mentioned what took place. He mentioned the folks that have been arrested are not getting proper due process, and he would look into pardons. So he does believe that the FBI has potentially arrested people who do not deserve to be arrested.
Exactly. And most likely it was the ones that was let in. It was the ones that was let in and not doing any harm or damage to anything.
Well, here's the problem, though. When you got these folks going in the Capitol building, scaring the shit out of the Senate, scaring the shit out of Congress, how does a Congress member know which one of these groups, which people in this huge group, which ones are safe and which ones are dangerous? They're all acting in concert once they go in that building.
Okay, so you think the ones that's actually, and you got video of them, the grannies that's going in, taking pictures, nonchalant, not doing anything aggressive, you got video of those, versus the one that went in, breaking in, and trying to do damage, you got video of those. So yes, they do know who was there to do harm and who was there not to do harm.
Yeah, see, here's the problem I have. Just like, and I often use Black Lives Matter gatherings because you guys often see it similar. If I'm at a Black Lives Matter protest and there are people there who are talking about killing the chief of police, similar to the vice president, I'm leaving. I'm not going to start taking pictures and going on a tour in the middle of people actively talking about killing members of Congress and the Senate. You're wearing the same hat. You showed up
Hold
with these
on.
people.
So the total different opposite ends of the Capitol. One side is doing that. The other side don't know that's happening. They're being let in. So you're equating both sides together. How is that
I don't.
fair?
Yeah. See, I don't see it like that. Where you got one nice group and they don't know about the mean group. As far as I'm concerned,
Well, let me
they
ask you
knew.
something. How did they get into the Capitol? You got one that was let in, and you got one side that was broken in. So, I mean, it doesn't take a rocket scientist, and it does take video to realize, okay, these people with these clothes, this attire was breaking in. But you got these people over here that was let in, walk peacefully with this attire on. You can tell who's there to do damage and who's not.
Okay,
Come
here's
on,
where
let's
I
be
have an
real.
issue. Here's the issue I have. First of all, we do not know if the Capitol Police that let them in feared for his life by saying no. So you don't know if he let them in out of being a coward. That's the first
Hold
thing.
on. So versus all those cops, I mean, a couple of doors had 3 cops let them in. Stood aside
Yeah,
while
yeah,
people
that's
was
what I'm saying.
passing them. They didn't know that their life was in danger when they stood aside, let them in. Oh, or are they going to stand aside? Well, my life's in danger. I'm just going to stand here. Come on now.
We, and that's the point I'm trying to make is we do not know that. We know what the chants were coming that was coming from that crowd. That crowd that went in there, even the people, wait a minute, even the people that were let into the Capitol building, you think that their sole purpose was to just go in there and take pictures.
We just started off on, well, they were beating cops on the head and shit.
Yeah, they were.
So why would a cop stand aside letting people go in if people there was doing harm to the cops? If they
Because
really
they were.
felt for their lives, do you think they're going to just stand by, let them pass them up, surround them and stuff?
Did
That
you
would
see
be a
the
stupid ass cop.
Did you see the African American cop running up the stairs and running from them? When you're
Yeah, I seen
outnumbered,
that. Come on now.
when you are outnumbered, you might do stupid ass things. You're not going to be a cop when you're outnumbered 1,001.
Well, then maybe
I
they
mean,
shouldn't
everybody
have
is not
hold the
willing to
door
die like
open.
that,
Maybe they
huh?
shouldn't have hold the door open.
I'm just telling you. I'm just simply saying that we don't know what was in the mind of those officers when they were being outnumbered to that degree. That
Oh,
group did not show up with a bunch of smiley faces on them.
and then a couple of them even had hats on. Put the Patriots who was going in there that wasn't doing any damage. They were putting hats on the cops. They really felt in danger, didn't they?
I don't know. That's why we need to have a hearing. Now, if the Republicans want to have their own hearing, the point I'm trying to make is this. You and I both we've both done some homework on this, and we obviously have a totally different viewpoint on it, which is why I am totally against anyone wanting to sweep this under the rug and move on. Just from our conversation alone, is one thing's pretty clear. We don't know everything that happened. So the idea that we should just move on not knowing everything that happened to me is ridiculous. But this conversation here makes it clear we need to do more investigation on what actually took place there that day. Do you not agree with that?
I agree, and testimony
Yeah.
alone is not going to do it. People that is doing the testimony needs to bring evidence, and this is one
Yeah.
thing that
Well,
they're not allowing is evidence.
what do you mean by evidence? What evidence is not being allowed?
Evidence. Someone could say Joe Blow just hit me in the Capitol and they'll just go with it. Okay?
No.
No, bring
I
good
get
hard
I get your
evidence.
I get your point, but I don't want to make it come across as if we're treating the January 6th protesters more special than anyone else. And the point I'm trying to make is you realize how many people are serving time in prison based on testimony as opposed to evidence. That happens all over America every day, where eyewitness testimony is enough to convict somebody. I don't know why it changes when it comes to this group, because that happens all the time.
No. Not only, okay, so now you're conflating. Not only eyewitness will convict somebody, there's got to be other evidence to it.
What if a
DNA,
cop
fingerprints.
what if a cop testifies and says, this person right here took a swing at me? Is that enough evidence?
Y'all wouldn't take cops' testimony. Y'all wanted the
Okay.
videos on the cops. So let's do that.
So in other words, if a Capitol police officer says this person took a swing at me, according to you, if he can't show video evidence of that, the person should not be charged, right?
If there is, okay, the videos alone shows some people breaking in and some people walking in, not doing any damage. Some are doing damage.
Wait. You're not answering the question I'm asking. I'm asking you if a cop testified that the person you have under arrest right here
No, because
tried to hit me in the head.
aren't y'all the first one that says cops lie?
I'm asking
So
you.
why
You're
take
diverting
testimony?
to everybody.
No,
You're diverting to everybody else.
Why take testimony instead of having good hard evidence?
What if the cop is saying he was attacked in an area that there is no video camera?
Come on now, it's 2022. In the Capitol, there is not a place, unless it's the damn bathrooms, that does not have video.
No, you can have, when you look at when Ashley Babbitt was shot, or when you look at when that cop was being smashed against the door, you could easily be doing something to a cop that cannot be seen on camera because there's so many bodies. Just like a football game. When there's a football tackle, things happen under the pile that even though it's on camera, you can't see the person being attacked because there's so many people in the way. That could happen in the Capitol building.
Okay, so didn't you say that the cop got trampled?
Yeah.
Okay, so again, was it an intentional act on that cop getting
Oh
tampered?
yeah, they're actually yelling heave ho while they're doing it. Yeah, it's definitely intentional.
Okay, like I said, I've not seen that video yet.
Yeah, you need to see this. If my internet wasn't acting up, I would bring it up. But for some reason, my damn internet does not want to act right. But there's plenty of video where they got a Capitol. The Capitol Police are on one side of a barricade trying to stop a whole bunch of protesters from getting through the barricade, and one police officer is trapped in the barricade, trapped in between the door or whatever. And because the protesters are pushing,
this was
trying to
outside
override.
or inside?
What?
Was this outside the Capitol or inside the Capitol?
This is all inside the Capitol building. They're in the building trying to get
You're
further
talking
in the
about
building.
barricade.
Yeah, the same way Ashley Babbitt got shot. When Ashley Babbitt got shot, that was a barricade inside the building as well. She was trying to climb through an opening. You didn't see the shooting in the back? Okay.
Oh, yeah,
there are barricades inside. Well, that's what happened is they were trying to break through another barricade and crushing a police officer knowingly. Not only were they crushing the police officer, they were trying to reach through the barricade and take the shields, take the helmets off of cops. They were bear spraying cops. You got to watch this because it's pretty clear they were committing crimes.
Oh, I've seen some of those. I've seen those where they were taking helmets and shit off the cops and stuff. But, I mean, if there was one FBI agent in the middle of that, Ray Epps, do you not think there would be other FBI agents in the middle of that too? just to
Well,
cause trouble like that?
hey, if you're an FBI agent and you try to convince me to rob a bank, if I rob the bank, I don't get to
Hey,
blame the
I didn't
officer.
say there were smart people. I didn't
Okay,
say they were
I
smart
take you
people.
for okay, fair enough. I do gotta move it on though, but I appreciate you coming through. Trucker Road Rage, this is the first time we talked?
No,
Oh, I
nope.
don't remember talking to
No,
you, but go ahead.
yeah, I'm under a different account.
Fair enough. Come
Kiss
on
my
back through
grits.
anytime. All right,
I'm
fair
Kiss
enough.
My Grits.
Oh, yeah, I definitely remember that name. Okay.
I know
All
you do.
right. All right. Absolutely.
All right.
Come on back through anytime. We don't always have to agree. Good talk.
All right. Bye,
Yeah.
hon.
All right.
Now, if my internet works right, just for before I go back to the box, I don't know what the hell's going on with my internet because I would have really liked to show. Don't tell me that stick on me, boy. Just go home, okay? You see me. Just go home. Talk to me, buddy, and go home. Don't tell me that stick on me. I'm not hurting you. Now, if you see what's happening on the monitor, this is the scenario, the scene I was just telling the previous caller about before I go back to the box. This is you got Capitol Police officers on one side of the barricade trying to prevent the protesters from getting further into the Capitol building. This is all on the inside, so there's no outside participants. This is all on inside the building. One side is the police trying to prevent them from getting further access to the building. The other side is the Capitol protesters trying to push their way through. And in the middle of all of this is one of the officers that has unfortunately been trapped in the barricade getting smashed. And you hear him even yelling, heave ho, to get the momentum of the protester crowd up. Heave ho. And you all of the grunting and grunt, that's that one officer crying out because he's in pain because he's trapped in the barricade with all of these folks literally crushing him. So I'm surprised she had not seen that. And I will tell you this also, there is a group of folks that have been watching the January 6th hearings, particularly liberals and Republicans that want to know what happened. But my MAGA folks believe the hearings was a sham from day one, so they're not watching them. So a lot of this stuff that's coming out, they don't know about it because you pretty much have the belief that Trump did nothing wrong from day one. So anything that comes out, you're not going to know about it because you've already dismissed the hearings. But this is a perfect example. I was trying to see if I could take it to the point where they actually show the officer, and he's not only being smashed, he's bleeding and things like that. I mean, he's not doing good. And there's no people being let in or anything in this. This is just simply crime being committed in concert by literally hundreds of people at the same time. So I'll go back to the box, but that's the officer you see right there on the monitor. You can see they were trying to take his hat off, his riot shield. I mean, they were bear spraying him. You can see in the video they were pepper spraying the police as a whole. And you see this cop there right in the middle of your screen crying out in pain. The law-abiding party. We back to blue. Okay, going back to the box. Facts matter. I already know where this is going.
Facts matter. Good afternoon.
Oh my God. I don't know how
Yeah.
you do
Look
it.
at her
3 of your
birthday.
last callers were just painful. You got QAnon Karen trying to cough up a lung as she spews every conspiracy theory. And then you got Dollar Tree Joe Pesci, who is like the poster child for we love the poorly educated. I mean, he couldn't even name one policy. Nothing he said was an actual policy. And those folks that DeSantis shipped off to Martha's Vineyards, they were accepted into America. They were permitted into America.
Yeah. Yeah, they weren't
They
even
were going through
illegals
the
at that point.
process.
Yeah,
No, they weren't
they were
illegal.
not
They
even
were going through the
yeah, they were
process.
just legal. Yeah.
But you know what scares me is these folks vote. I'm just hoping. See, a lot of these folks did not vote until Trump, and I hope when that dissolves, and it's going to, they stop voting because we don't need them. We just don't. We don't need uneducated, uninformed, bigoted people
Well,
voting.
wait
I'm
a minute,
sorry.
wait a minute. I gotta stop you though, because
I know
you know,
you're
being
still you
African
are gentle
American.
on them.
Yeah, well,
Yeah,
not
they
only.
are, but they're uninformed. They're uninformed
Well, let
Americans.
me stop you though. The reason why
I'm
I
not
don't like that.
advocating to take their vote away, but I wish they
No,
wouldn't.
but let me just respond to what you're saying. The reason why I don't like that is because that's how the whole voting prevention started against African Americans, is that we were uneducated and we weren't smart enough to vote. So I don't ever want to even entertain doing that to somebody else, because that's what they used to
Yeah, but
do to
that was
us.
a lie.
Well, I'm just telling you. I'm just telling you. It
I
started
know, I
out
know, I
by
know.
claiming that folks were not intelligent.
Well, they're certainly uninformed.
Yeah.
I mean, they've based, I mean, it's just crazy.
Yeah.
Anywho,
It's interesting though how many people do not believe. While me and her were talking, there was no shortage of folks in the comments that suggested the protesters did nothing wrong on January 6th. I've seen a lot of folks tell me that there was
oh,
no
you've seen
crimes
the
committed
videos.
there
They
that
were
day.
they were angels.
You said there were what?
They were angels. They were perfect
Yeah.
angels.
Well, they were let in. They were let in.
Yeah, they were all let in. All let in. They had permission slips to spread feces all over the walls. Yes.
Yeah. Well, I
I
don't
mean,
know. Like I said,
the zip ties. They were going to make love chains to connect together and hold hands and sing kumbaya.
what is a love chain?
I don't know. I just was reaching there.
So, what is the likelihood that something like this could happen again in this country?
It's more unlikely than it was before because we just never. I don't think anyone conceived of it ever happening.
The financial. Yeah. I played this earlier. I want to get your take on this. I want you to hear this. And folks in the audience who just joined the program. By the way, folks, tap the screen. Get your boy up to 20,000 likes. For you guys who are new, feel free to follow the program. This is kind of what we do here. But facts, I want you to hear this. It's about 20 seconds. Folks in the audience who just joined, I want your take on this.
What is Thanksgiving? Galatians 6 talks about it. Be not deceived. God is not mocked. For whatever amount.
Damn, my fucking internet.
Thus shall he reap. Those who have planted evil seeds, they are about to get evil upon their own heads. Those who have planted good seeds are about to be blessed beyond measure. We are here. We're going to go dark. And when the lights come on, worldwide celebrations are coming. We are going to see the return this year. 45 comes back. Not by his will, but by God's will. God's will shall be done. God gets all the glory.
God gave all the glory. How do you feel about that? What do you think about that?
Not a cult at all. No cult here.
Well, coming back this year, coming to a theater near you, number 45.
Yeah,
Now,
it's the
8% this
same kind
year.
of weaponization as, let's say, ISIS or the Taliban. It's the same. It's the same thing.
Damn. I hope not,
I mean,
man. God, I hope it ain't
oh
that
no,
bad.
no,
But
that horse has already left the barn. I mean, it's
now,
white
real quick,
nationalism.
I'll let
It's
you
Christian
continue. I'll let you continue,
nationalism.
but yeah, real quick in the comments, Tara Thomas asked, "What is that from?" This was from a what is it? A speech held by a conference, rather, headlined by Eric Trump and Michael Flynn. So this was a speaker at that conference, and this was, I believe, yesterday. So this just happened, and it was at a conference that was headlined by Eric Trump and Michael Flynn. So you're seeing it on. It's starting to make the rounds on liberal media. You're not going to hear this on right wing media at all. They don't want you to
Yeah,
even know
it's
this
the
shit happened.
outliers. It's the
Yeah,
outliers.
exactly.
You know, it's got Eric never Trump or Trump. Yeah.
Yeah. But this was at an actual speech because I had somebody earlier in this live said that this guy does not represent Republicans or MAGA, and I wanted to make sure he understood, or that person understood. This was at a rally, a MAGA gathering, so headlined by one of his children. So I don't know, but
And I love the way they were raising their arm, just like certain 1930s folks.
Yeah,
1930s folks out in Germany.
Yeah, because it's interesting you would say that because here's one where they did a prayer, and you can see on the screen, yeah, they're clearly doing what you just suggested.
God, we come to you in the name of Jesus. We're asking you to open the eyes of President Trump's understanding that he will know the time of divine intervention. He will know how to implement divine intervention. And you will surround him, Father, with none of this deep state trash, none of this rhino trash. You'll surround him, people that you pick, with your own mighty hand. In the name of Jesus.
I got a taste for some Kool-Aid. What do you think?
Well, he sounds like he definitely represents the teachings of Jesus Christ.
Oh my God. You know something? I don't understand why people believe that, for my religious folks, I grew up Christian. I'm not very religious now, but I don't understand why people think that Jesus would be so involved in American politics. I mean, there are a lot of other people on this planet that are starving and going hungry and shit. Who cares about the American economy when somebody is laying on the ground with a bloated stomach and flies on their face? I just don't get it.
These folks are having they're having their patriotism, their religious beliefs weaponized. Period.
Yeah.
Just like ISIS, the Taliban, etc.
Yeah.
It's right there.
Yeah. I'm willing to, me and you may disagree on the Trump economy. I think his economy wasn't bad, and I think there are things that Trump was doing that was good for the country. I understand you and I disagree, and that's fine. But
Well,
this
even
shit
for
right
that, I'll
here,
say it was all right. But like you said, it was nothing. There was no gangbuster, and it's easily arguable that it was just a continuation of the direction that Obama had set it. The course Obama had set.
yeah, policy wise, I don't think Trump's economy was the end of Trump's policies were the end of the world, but the stuff that these folks on this monitor here, what you just see, I don't see from the Trump presidency stuff that was like earth shattering. I mean, okay, the economy was good, jobs numbers were great, but I'm talking about shit like sending people to the moon or curing cancer. These people act like he cured cancer or something.
Well, I mean, to be fair, he did raise the deficit each and every year he was in office. Yeah. So, I mean, he did have some accomplishments.
But they all do that, though. I mean, Obama raised the
actually,
deficit.
Joe Biden last year lowered the deficit by $365 billion, and this year we're on target to reduce the deficit by $1.4 trillion.
Yeah, but all of the presidents, Trump, Bush, Obama, they all raised the deficit, right?
Yeah, but Obama was kind of handed a pile of shit and made dinner out of it. I mean, if we remember, the auto industry was gone, the housing industry was in the toilet, etc. Unemployment was insane. Depending on what race you were, it was anywhere from 10% to 20-some percent. So I mean,
let me ask you yourself specifically. I may have asked you this before, but I want to ask you this for the audience at home. The Biden administration right now, almost 2 years into his presidency, what type of a job, if you had to give him a letter grade, A, B, C, D, or F, what would you give him? You think he's doing a good job right now?
Definitely. I mean, any other major nation would gladly swap our economy right now, or
But they
even
would
when it
do
comes
that
down to
under
our
any
inflation.
yeah, but that applies to any president. They would swap with our economy.
All right, let's go but I'm factoring in the inflation rate.
Okay.
I mean,
Right.
every other major country is basically higher than us. We've created more jobs than were lost during the pandemic. Wages are up. There's a whole bunch of great things going on, and all the while Biden has enacted a bunch of great policies. And you can list them, I can list them. They'll never be able to list them. But all while doing that, he's lowered the deficit. Trump gave permanent tax breaks to the one percenters,
Okay.
temporary tax breaks to middle America, and raised the deficit every year. But man,
What
he's
about
brilliant.
the student loan forgiveness, which I am a huge fan of, but would that not have an effect on the deficit?
Well, it depends on how you're balancing the budget, but I mean, it's so strange. The same people that say America first are against Americans getting help. I'll give you
Now that's a
an
good point.
example. My local representative, House of Representatives, Vern Buchanan, who is worth a eye-popping $157 million, he happened to get a PPE loan for $2 million. Imagine that.
I don't even want to. Facts. I gotta move it on. That's
But
and that and
he's
that's
a
happened.
Republican, so they're not worried about that.
That's it's awful, and it's happened with a lot of wealthy people. Yeah, I don't even want to think about that, but I got to
Yeah.
move it on. Fact,
Have a good afternoon, my friend.
absolutely good talk.
Folks, what do you guys think? In regards to some of the shit that I just played, because particularly this one here. If my
Who has credit cards, mortgages, student loans, they will be canceled. Zechariah 1 talks about Thanksgiving. We are days away from Thanksgiving. What is Thanksgiving? Galatians 6 talks about it. Be not deceived, God is not mocked, for whatever a man thus shall he reap. Those who have planted evil seeds, they are about to get evil upon their own heads. Those who have planted good seeds are about to be blessed beyond measure. We are here. We're going to go dark, and when the lights come on, worldwide celebrations are coming. We are going to see the return this year. 45 comes back, not by his will, but by God's will. God's will shall be done. God gets all the glory.
Now, in the comments,
financial rebalance.
I see Fancy Prancy. Like I always say, friend of the program. Always good to hear from Fancy. She says, we get it. He is a fanatic. You know, the issue is, it's not the guy that's speaking. It's the fact that how many folks are he speaking to? You see the size of that audience? So he's not a fanatic that's speaking to himself. He's speaking to what looks like hundreds of people that are obviously enjoying what he's saying and agreeing with him. So I just want you to understand that
including Republican Senator Lindsey.
He's not saying that stuff to himself. So he's not saying it in a vacuum. Going back to the box. What did that say real quick here? If you aren't disturbed by this, you probably agree with religious zealot practices. Fair point. Mark Sidney Crosby. Good afternoon.
Nevertheless, good afternoon.
Hi, hi there. I don't disagree with you on much. Maybe the Denver Broncos jersey might be a little bit disagreement, but that
This
must
is
be
the
yours.
Bears. Chicago
It's
Bears.
a Bears. Oh, okay. I can only see the orange. I'm sorry.
Represent the Bears. I represent the Bears right on down to the sandals on my feet. But go ahead.
That's awesome. I will tell you, as part of the LGBTQ community, I'm still a one-issue voter, and will continue to be a one-issue voter. I already sent my vote in, and until the Republicans stop using us as my community as scapegoats for the rest of the problems that they're going through, I can't vote Republican. Not even, not even if I
Give
really
me some
wanted to.
examples. Give me some examples of how the Republicans are using the LGBT community as scapegoats.
Right. So, I mean, they are using scare tactics that teachers are trying to indoctrinate children into being part of the LGBTQ community when it doesn't work that way. They are using scare tactics that, transgender people are, more visible now. So therefore, um, they're creating a new way of life, especially in their schools, especially around children. They're using, like Ron DeSantis is using drag shows. He's talking about drag shows. I mean, every time you have to go to a drag show, it's a good time. Nobody's getting indoctrinating in a drag show, you know. But the fact remains that, sir, I mean, I went to Catholic school all through middle school and through high school, and that was, I consider that a form of indoctrination. But I still wound up gayer than Christmas. So, I mean, it really doesn't matter. No teacher is going to turn your kid gay, but they don't see
How do
that.
you respond? But how do you respond to folks who suggest that you shouldn't be teaching kids in elementary school anything about LGBT issues? How do you respond to them?
How do I respond to that? I say it's all age appropriate, and I think it's perfectly acceptable and not going to change a kindergartner one bit because, um, you know, kids are very understanding on the issue and they're okay. I mean, usually they're just like, all you have to say is like, if a kindergarten teacher, if a kid asks a question, why does Billy have two dads? Well, okay. Sometimes boys like boys, sometimes girls like girls, sometimes boys like
Okay.
girls, and that's okay. I mean, yeah, if you put it very simply, I always believe in age appropriateness, and I
Okay.
also believe it's important that a teacher be allowed to, because I went through the military through don't ask, don't tell, and that was not good. That's not a
Right.
good situation.
What would they
So
do during the
go ahead.
time you were in the military? Because I think that happened under Bill Clinton. During that
Yes,
time,
sir.
what would happen
And
if you
George W.
told them?
Bush.
Okay, so what would
And,
have happened during that time if you had told, like, say you wanted to carry a picture on you of you and your husband? What would they have done during that time?
I would have been fired.
Oh,
Absolutely.
okay.
And the worst part about don't ask, don't tell is that if a coworker who didn't get along with you, or maybe a supervisor didn't really like you, found that out about you, they could just make it public and get you fired. And
Wow.
for some it was a dishonorable discharge, for most it was a general discharge. But so I had to hide that part of myself as much as I could. Um, and luckily for me, I was not fired. But
Yeah.
you're asking what stuff that Republicans do. I mean, was the transgender military ban that Trump did even necessary? Some soldiers lost their jobs because
Wait,
of that, and
what
it
was this?
wasn't
The
even.
transgender? What is this again? You said the transgender what ban?
He put a ban on transgender people operating in the military. Yes, sir.
Oh,
And he didn't ask his generals if this was a good idea. He just tried to feed more fodder to his base. And unfortunately, good people lost their jobs. I mean, who cares if you're a soldier fighting in a war zone? Who cares? I mean, what that person identifies, that that's your brother or your sister that's helping you.
yeah, but
Um,
what
that,
about competitions? I mean, the military has competition in sports and things like that. If you are
yep.
a natural born male that now identifies as a female, even in the military, if you're involved in some of the sports and some of the competitions, wouldn't that give you a biological advantage?
And some respect, yes. I don't see a whole lot of transgender people participating in sports.
Yeah, but
But I will
I
say,
agree with you. I agree with you in regards to schools, and thank you for that, Fancy. I agree with you in schools, in like public schools, but in the military, you're absolutely gonna have to participate. Like, let's say, for instance, I remember the movie with Kevin Costner and Adam Kushner. They were Coast Guard people, and he was teaching them how to swim, or they were having swim competitions, and Adam in the Kushner character had broken a lot of records. If you find out the person who ran the track with the fastest time or climbed the wall with the fastest time is actually a transgendered female, wouldn't that be wrong? Because in the military, you are going to be competing. You go through Navy SEALs training, for instance, and you find out the person who has the highest time from the female side was actually born a male. Wouldn't that be wrong?
I don't think it would be necessarily wrong, but I really would need like an example of when it happened. I will say that when you are transitioning, it does have physiological effects to your body as well. So, just for instance, like a woman transitioning to a male, she takes testosterone, so that actually may bulk her efforts, efforts up, and it depends on which category they would be in.
Right.
But I just still think, competitions aside, if that person is willing to fight for our country, it shouldn't matter what they identify as. And there were people who had spent their whole military, I only, did 4 years. I did one contract, and that was enough for me. And there's people
I
who
appreciate
made
your
it a
service
career.
no matter what.
Oh, well, I kind of get awkward about that, because they were helping me out and I was helping them out. I needed a job and a place to live. The recruiter made it sound much more appealing than it was, of course, as all recruiters do.
Right.
And I did it. I did not enjoy it because I did not have much of a personal life, and I kind of had to hide myself, and
Yeah,
it's a lot of waiting
that's got to be
around
hard.
for stuff to
Yeah,
happen. Yeah.
that's gotta be tough. I the don't ask, don't tell thing to me. Yeah, that's anti-gay, or anti-LGBT or whatever the current topic. Appreciate those gifts to the crown and the hat there. Thank you, whoever just sent that. I didn't see it, but I appreciate that. But listen, Mark, I do got to move it on. But yeah,
Thank
I
you so much
appreciate
for
your
having
service
me
no
on.
matter what. Absolutely, come on back through anytime.
Thank you, sir.
Okay.
Good talk. Okay, they will call good evil and evil good. Yeah, some people do that. So, looking in the comments here before we go back, Bone Spurs give Joe Biden millions and millions of Americans unemployed. Wait a minute. User, you got a lot in your comment here. Bone Spurs. I mean, obviously, that's probably a reference to Trump. Give Joe Biden millions and millions of Americans unemployed, millions in food lines. I don't know. You know something? Some of this, I'm not a fan of any president pretending like shit that's happening under his watch is not his responsibility. So I often counter my liberal counterparts who say, "Well, it's global." Yeah, okay. But when the economy starts going down, Joe Biden's going to take credit for it. So that part I get. But the food lines and all, you don't think any of that shit happened under Trump? You think that nobody was homeless in LA under President Trump? Nobody was homeless in Seattle or Portland? No, they were. He was just saying it wasn't his fault. He was blaming it on liberal mayors and liberal governors. All of a sudden, Biden gets elected, and suddenly we're blaming it on the president. So I'm just going to say I try to call a spade no matter who's dealing the cards, or call a strike no matter who's up to bat. And the idea that a lot of the things being blamed on Biden also happened under Trump, but for some reason they were not Trump's fault does not resonate with me, because I'm holding Biden accountable for what happens under his watch. My MAGA folks did not do the same for Trump. Perfect example, rising crime rates in America. There are folks all over the country on the right blaming President Biden for rising crime rates, as if we did not have a major crime problem under President Trump. But it wasn't his fault. It was liberal mayors and liberal cities and liberal governors. All of a sudden, Biden gets elected, and suddenly it's the president's fault too. That's what I'm talking about not being fair in judgment. You want to bring up the Black Lives Matter riots of 2020? All of that shit was happening under Trump. You talking about cities burning? All of that was happening under Trump. Yet, if you support Trump, you don't give him blame for any of that. Knowing that if it happened under Biden, you'd be blaming Biden for it. That's all I'm saying. Because I'm holding Biden accountable for the same shit when he says it's a global issue, inflation is not my fault. Knowing that if inflation goes down, Biden is going to take credit for it and the liberals are going to give him credit for it too. I can see politics on both sides. I'm just going to say that. Looking in the comments, Imps. Damn, somebody has the name of Warcram. I almost want to bring you up now, but Warcram, I'll go to you next. Imps 120. Always it's Warcram. October. Mark, thank you for that. That was beautiful. Imps, good afternoon.
How you doing, buddy?
I'm doing good. What do you think? You think Biden is responsible for crime, rising crime rates in this country?
A little bit.
How so?
Well, you know how people say that Trump gave a backbone to Republicans and MAGA to stand up against liberals. I think Biden's doing the opposite.
What do you mean? Biden is giving a backbone to who? Criminals?
Well, if you knock somebody's hat off their head, that's a criminal act, right?
Okay.
You know what
So
I'm
when
talking
I
about?
showed the video of January 6th protesters knocking the riot shield hats off of cops' heads and Trump is talking about pardoning them, is that not giving them a backbone to committing crime?
Possibly.
Okay. So they both did it. So in other words, they both will be responsible for crime.
Yep, that's why I like you, man. You're in the middle, and I'm kind of right,
Okay.
more to center, but
Okay.
I see the points of both sides. Really, I do.
Okay. All right.
I
Fair
like it.
enough.
I like that. What that one guy called said he was going to cough up a lung. Who's that guy, man? Talking about that woman. You know what I mean? That one guy was there, thought he was so smart. I'll debate that guy any day of the week, whoever that guy
What did
was.
you? That's my boy Facts Matters, and he was talking about
Yeah.
Kiss My Grits. Both of them are now. They obviously are on both ends of the political spectrum, but
Yeah. What
they're
he
both
called?
fans of the program. They're
What
friends
he
of the
say?
program.
What did he say that the one guy? I didn't get to listen to that one guy that was on there, but he was saying he was the poster child for MAGA or something like that. Isn't that what he
Well,
said?
I got another guy I talked to. His name, he go by the name Ultra MAGA, so it's pretty clear he's strong he's strong in the Trump camp. We talk all the time, so hey, I get folks from both sides. So it's hard to go ahead.
I just didn't like what he said. I'll debate that guy any day of the week, and I'll compare IQs. I was posting when he was in there. I was posting, "What do you do for a living?" I want to know what he does for a living. What does he
What did
do?
he say? What did he say that you had the most problem with?
What do you say that there was a guy in there earlier? I think before the woman who was trying to cough up a lung. He was saying that this guy was a poster child for MAGA or for the Republicans.
Oh,
I think it was MAGA.
okay. All right. Okay. What? Okay. What? How do you define? What did you when he said somebody was a poster child for MAGA? How do you take that? How would you define someone claiming that someone is a poster child for MAGA?
In my perspective, or in that guy's perspective?
Let's go with yours, then we'll go with his.
Mine, I think that people that respect other people, I think people believe in God, whether it's your God or my God, whatever, or believe in a higher power. I'm not real religious. I'm not real spiritual. But, I'm agnostic. I'm going to say, I don't know. You know what I'm saying? I doubt
Okay.
everything. Anyhow, so the ultra MAGA love the country. They love the Second Amendment, just like a lot of libertarians do. We have that in common. And, they believe in hardworking jobs. We're not, that's the sad thing about Democrats. They chase after the unions and they beg for the union's vote. And the union just goes along with it willy-nilly and just votes for them. It's ridiculous. I've seen the union. I work with the union. I know how the unions work. And
I
that's
have
one thing.
two. I have two. Let me respond to that. I started out as a young man when I was in college. I was a unloader for UPS, United Parcel Service, the brown trucks. And at the time, I was in I forget which union, International Brotherhood of no, I can't remember which one. CWA might have been Contract Workers Association, but I was in a union with UPS. And then later in life, I worked for about a decade as a telecom engineer with AT&T, and I was a member of the International Brotherhood of Electrical Workers Union. And I can tell you, with my experience, I've, maybe 13, 14 years in the union, not the longest period of time, but long enough that every job that someone was doing that was equivalent to mine and they were not in the union paid substantially less. So when you talk about the union, I do believe there's corruption in unions. However, when it comes to the employees, there is no doubt that as an employee, you are far better off being in a union than not. And you don't see that?
I'm not.
Tell me where I'm getting that wrong yet.
I work in a right. Well, I work in a right to work state. That means what
Okay.
that means what it says.
Why do people want that? I know what I know what it means, but I don't get. You've always, as an employee, you have always had the right to work. You have never been in a position where you will be punished for quitting your job. What the right to work benefits corporations. I don't know what made employees think they're better off under right to work laws. You've already had that.
No, we believe in we don't believe in that. Uh, the longer you've been there, the more rights you have for a job. I can't think right now, but it's what is it?
Loyalty,
No. The many years you've been there,
seniority.
seniority, right? We don't believe in that seniority clause. We believe that you produce your work and you keep your value by how much you produce. I'll go up against any union guy, electrician. I'm an electrician. That's why it's amps 120, 277. Not a lot of people put that together, but anyhow, I'll outwork any union guy out there. Believe that. Believe that.
So
I'm a
you
foreign.
believe, so you believe no matter how long you've been at your job, if they hire a kid right out of school and he is more desirable, they should be to just promote him to manager, give and just put him right over you. You think the salary should make any difference? You don't believe in any seniority, any loyalty to you at all for the fact that you've put years in your company. They every day they continue treating you like day one, despite all of the years in time. You don't believe you should get any kind of loyalty or seniority at all.
Well, if you've been there for a long time, you've already earned your loyalty. You've already earned your respect. You've already proven that
No, you
you are.
haven't. Not in the environment you're talking about. If you work for me in a right to work state for 20 years and I find out a guy coming out of college will do your same job for $10 an hour less, I don't care how long you've been loyal to this company or how much you've made us. You're in the right to work state. I'm going to get rid of you because I can save money with that guy. That's
That's
what
not.
happens when you don't give any seniority or loyalty. And
That's not.
I'll let you continue. Go ahead.
That's not true in reality, though. That's not true. The guys
You think
coming
that?
out. That's not true in reality.
I
Guys,
disagree.
the guys coming out of colleges, the guys that are 1 year, 2 year apprentices, we call them green because I don't care how book smart you are. I don't care how book smart you are. You don't know half of the trade. It takes approximately 2 to 3 years just to learn the material. You can learn some of it in school, but you're not going to learn how to do it in school. That's the
But
sad
that
thing about.
depends. Wait a minute. That depends. That's specific to your job only. But I'll tell you, like, let's say you are a city bus driver in Boston or New York or Philadelphia, some heavy union cities, and you've been driving a bus for 20, 30 years. You can hire somebody right out of college that can drive a city bus. You can't pay them 20. So you say they don't know the trade and they don't know all of this stuff. It depends on what job you're in. You can work for the park district for 10, 15 years, cleaning up parks or cleaning up subway trains. These are all union jobs in big cities. Yeah, you can find somebody right out of school that can do that same job and pay them $10 an hour less or something and say, screw the guy that's been working with you all these years.
Well, we could say the thing about illegal aliens. You know what I'm saying? That's what we say. Aliens. You know what I'm saying? It goes both ways. You know what
I
I'm
wasn't
saying?
expecting you to go. I wasn't expecting you to go there.
I'm just saying they'll work for less. You know what I'm saying? It's a fact.
Okay.
You know, the employer is always going to go for the lower buck, but whether
Well,
it bites him in the butt or not, it's up to him.
and here's a problem I have with that is that it used to be where you got out of high school or college and you went and worked for a job and you stayed there for 30 years because you were treated based on loyal seniority and those things you're speaking out against. And you wouldn't leave a job that you were at for 20 years because you built up vacation time or you built up money towards your retirement and your pension. We've gotten rid of all of that. And the end result now is there is no loyalty in the workplace whatsoever. People leave jobs right off the bat. There's just even if you've been working there for 15 years, there's oftentimes very little reason to stay there to the 16th year because there's zero loyalty. And to me, I don't see how our modern day workplace environment has improved because of it. I think it's gotten worse, but you think differently, obviously, right?
Well, you ever watch that guy Fritz Frizzy? He's another.
No.
I don't know if you've been in his lives or he's been in yours or not, but I follow him. He's a good host, like you, bud.
Okay.
And he brings up the workplace and the how Americans have become soft and all that kind of stuff. And he makes a lot of good points towards that. But it's true, you know, as the time goes forward, you know, people are getting soft in this country. They don't want to work. I don't care if it's union, non-union. You know, that's one thing I always say about union guys. You know, some of them work hard, some of them don't. You know, it's both ways in the same category. You know, but I think overall Americans are getting softer. You know, nobody wants to come in our trade anymore, and they don't want to work hard anymore. And I try to.
I think I believe Americans are getting softer because I believe it's a measure of you get what you pay for. I think that back in the day, when they were paying our parents, they paid better wages. They got pensions. They got turkeys during Thanksgiving. They got more rewards for their labor. What the corporations nowadays are trying to do, and the employers nowadays are trying to do, is demand they're trying to demand what past employers received for paying out better and treating the employees better. They're trying to demand that now while giving less. And they're not getting it. I mean, like I say all the time, you look at Chick-fil-A compared to McDonald's, you get better service at Chick-fil-A. They get paid
Food,
better. Yeah,
better
I
food,
believe you get what you pay for.
better food too.
Well, you get
look,
what you pay for. If you
look,
pay shit, you get shit.
look. This is what I'm going to say about union. Last thing, unions were good when they first came out. They were, you know, protecting the workers, but the unions have outgrown their stay. And you can look at that just by how the pensions are bankrupting these cities. If you look at these cities, they had articles in a lot of these big cities where the pensions and all that are just that's why they quit. You know, when you start now, you can write out of the union and not join. A lot of companies are like that now. These unions are just bankrupting these big cities. These pensions that these guys are drawing after 20, 30 years is bankrupting these cities. And there was a lot of articles, Detroit and Cincinnati, a lot of these big cities. I've seen articles saying how the union's pensions are just breaking them. You know, and like me, I got to do a 401k, or I'm not going to have a retirement. You know what I mean? I put my money, and I expect a lot. I make probably as much as the union guys do. You know what I'm saying?
Okay.
I'm a foreman. I teach kids how to do my job. You know what I mean?
Right.
And there ain't nothing a union guy can do that I can't. I've done it all. Believe
Well,
that.
I mean, I can understand that from your own personal standpoint, but here's my take on it. And I do agree that unions oftentimes get involved in politics and they can be corrupt. I agree with that. However, there's no denying that corporations can be the same. And I look at unions as a countermeasure to the other side. It's a push-pull effect. Right now, what we have done is we have removed unions in this country. I believe only about 7% of Americans work union jobs, and we've given corporations the power. So look at what's happening now. You're getting stuff like minimum wage staying the same for like 20 plus years. That would never happen in a union environment where minimum wage stayed the same. Same thing you talked about, getting rid of pensions, and now you got to take a gamble with the stock market. All of these things that are going backwards. So you got people who work like Obama used to bring up, an assistant manager working at Taco Bell somewhere, making 23,000 a year, and they're putting them on salary so they don't have to pay them for overtime. That would never work that would never happen in a union environment. So even though unions, I admit, have corruption, you need a push pull. You need a balance. You've gotten rid of the unions, and now you're just letting corporations run amok. And what's happening? Their salaries are skyrocketing, and your salaries are remaining stagnant. So I don't think what we're doing is the solution. But I'll give you the last word.
Well, if you choose that job and that's where you plan to stay, that's that people. It's like people say, McDonald's workers make 15 an hour. Well, it's meant to be a stepping stone job. It's not meant to be a life career. You know what I'm
Yeah.
saying? If you're going to
Yeah.
work there, you're going to have to live with it. I've left companies. Believe me, I just left a company after 13 years. They didn't want to pay me anymore. They didn't want to give me any more respect. They didn't want to give me any more authority. I left. I went to another company where I demanded more money. I got more money, and I'm earning my respect again. I'm starting from the bottom with the company, but I've already
Yeah.
earned my respect since I've been here. I've been here about a year now. I run jobs. I order my own material. I delegate the work. You know,
The
and that's
idiots got to eat too, though. I'll respond quick. Somebody else in the comments said something very similar to you. Said he's right. Go to college if you don't want a McDonald's job. Here's the problem I have with it is this. When we talk about raising the minimum wage, for instance, to 15 bucks an hour, the first thing people start talking about, well, burger flipper jobs are meant to be stepping stones. It never was meant for you to make, good money as a burger flipper. But when you look at the reality of how many jobs and the type of jobs that pay under $15 an hour, you start finding out that some of those jobs do require you to go to college. So you start talking about stuff like CNA, certified nursing assistants, some LPNs, assistant teachers, school bus drivers. There's a hell of a lot of jobs that are actual jobs, not stepping stone, but actual career jobs that require you to have some secondary education that pay less than 15 bucks an hour. So it's
hey,
not just burger flippers.
I know,
Now, if
but
it was only burger flippers, I would agree with you.
that guy out there, he's got a TikTok. I don't know if you see. I don't know how much you watch TikTok. I watch TikTok a lot, man. Way too much, man. But
I'm
anyhow,
hosting too much. I'm hosting too much to watch.
but there was a guy out there that had a video where he said, Gavin Newsom's going to raise McDonald's workers or whatever fast food workers minimum wage to $22 an hour. Did you watch that guy? And he actually figured mathematically. So
Okay.
if you was to pay somebody who worked at McDonald's 22 an hour, the company itself as a whole cannot survive if you pay them 22 an hour
Well,
mathematically.
yeah, I mean, I get what you're saying, but that never came up when folks decided to try to figure out what would happen if CEO salaries quadrupled or multiplied 100 times. You realize how they're set. We talk about it all the time. What will happen if the folks at the bottom get a raise, goods and service and all that? Nobody ever thought, like, if CEO salaries increased by 500%, what would this do for a company? They just did it and made it work. And they made it work by taking away salaries at the bottom. But I gotta move on, man. I'll give you the last one. I do gotta move on.
Hey, just think about this too. I also seen another guy, say something about this. A lot of people are saying, how much ExxonMobil makes a year, how much, all these different oil refineries and gas producers make a
Right.
year. They only make, I think they only make 10 cents a gallon maximum. They make 8 to
Okay.
10 cents a gallon. The people that run the gas station only make 2 to 3 cents, I think, up to 5 cents a gallon.
That's true.
You know who makes the most?
No, I don't.
A gallon is the states. Pennsylvania
Oh, I mean,
charges
taxes. Taxes.
taxes 55
Yeah.
cents a gallon in Pennsylvania.
Yeah.
I think Maryland is
Yeah.
something like 28 cents a gallon. Those are the people that are ripping the American public off. The Democrats and the liberals always point the finger to the gas companies like ExxonMobil and all those. It's not those people that they need to point the finger to. It's the people the states that are stealing the money and send it to
Yeah.
other places. You know what I'm saying? That's where you ought to point the finger at the states. It's
Well,
not the
that's just a gas argument. There are plenty of industries where CEOs in the top are ripping the people off. Like I said before, there is no legitimate excuse why minimum wage has been kept around the same amount for 20 years. Yet all because we hear all the time if you raise the minimum wage, the price of goods and services are going to go up. Well, that means the last 20 years they should have stayed the same, and they have not. The CEO salaries and things have went up. So we can talk about any other area. But when it comes to minimum wage staying the same for that length of time, almost 20 years, even if it's a stepping stone job, as you're talking about, that would mean that a person who got into a burger flipping job back in 1990 as a stepping stone job did considerably better than the same person getting into a Burger King job as a stepping stone in 2022. There's no excuse for that. The
yeah, but
burgers have went up.
with
Everything
your
has went up in price. There's no
but
reason
with
for that.
but with your theory, wages staying the same. You're saying the price of the products will stay the same. But what about
And they
operating?
happen.
Operating costs go up though.
Yeah, but the people who are owning these businesses, there is no denying that they are profiting more in 2022 than they were 20, 30 years ago. There's
But
no denying that.
their
H2O,
operating
thank you.
costs are higher. Their operating
But
costs are
they're
higher.
but they're not proportional. They're not proportional because your labor is an operating cost, and you're not paying it. You're paying a hell of a lot less for labor now than you did 20 years ago. So that's part of your operating cost. That has
Yeah,
went down.
I get your point. You
Yeah,
didn't say anything about
gotta
my
go.
haircut, man. I used to have real long hair, man. I just got it cut today.
Good on you.
Okay.
I have none at all. Catch you later. All right, looking in the comments, people vote against their own interest. Shaking. Agree with that. I certainly when you talk about right to work states, as an employee, you've always had right to work. As an employee, right to work laws give you no benefit at all. That goes strictly to the corporations. They can now fire you at will, oftentimes without an explanation. As an employee, you've always been able to quit. Nobody's ever, you never had a situation where you did not have the right to work. I just don't understand how so many folks at the bottom thought that that was some kind of benefit to them. I can't think of one benefit that a person making 40, 50, 60,000 dollars a year would encounter by going from unions to right to work. Okay, you saved the $20, $30 of union dues maybe, or whatever you're paying in union dues, but they turn the whole state into right to work. I just don't see it. Looking in the comments says you have no power in the right to work state, period. My name is Kid. Yeah, that's my point. Now, I did exactly that. Worked for over a decade as a union telecom engineer in Chicago. Pro union state, I was in union the whole time. I left that job and got back in the industry a little bit later in a right to work state, a non union job. The pay was $10 an hour less. And I'll tell you one other thing I noticed. The unions, if you work in a union environment, you have the employees act in the manner of us against them. You're dealing with employees that know their rights. If a manager starts mistreating an employee, he can either go to the union steward or oftentimes pull out the contract himself and say, this is not in the contract. You can't do that. When you go to a non-union company, you start encountering snitches, office snitch. Everybody's fighting because they're trying to please the manager because none of their jobs are secure. You don't have the same us against them mentality. It's exactly what they say. It's divide and conquer. Hence the term union, united we stand. In a right to work state, there's no unity among the employees. They all know that the manager holds all the power. So they snitch on each other and do all kinds of shit. I don't see it. I just, haven't been in both of them, I don't see it. So that's just my point. But war crime, I definitely want to talk to war crime. We'll go back on the original. Is this January 6th? What happened on January 6th? Does that affect your vote at all? War crime. Good
Good afternoon.
afternoon. Hey, what's on your mind? I'm sure you've been listening to the program. I
I,
appreciate your
yeah,
holding. What's in
we
your
kind of got
mind?
off topic. I'm far right, but I agree 100% with unions. I think unions are completely necessary. I've worked jobs that need unions desperately, like Amazon. Just bad working conditions, bad hours.
Yeah, Walmart.
Yeah,
Walmart.
they need unions, and they also actively act against their employees to make sure they don't unionize. So,
Yeah.
but when it comes to January 6th, that doesn't affect me at all. And in fact, I think it was sort of like when that happened, it didn't really affect me at all because I was watching over the whole summer the George Floyd riots, even in my own city.
So, I mean, what did happen on January 6th, in your opinion? What was that all about?
Well, the January 6th thing is weird because there's a lot of when that happened, really the most extreme of the extreme drove to D.C. All the QAnon, all the former Tea Party members. It really wasn't, they're not one unified group. They were just there just because they were pissed. It's right after an election and people went in the building. And I mean, there was a time where the building was occupied for a little bit, but there was people that were like police officers were letting people in. So it was there was violence as well. I'm not going to deny there was no violence, but it pales in comparison to the violence of the George Floyd riots.
Yeah, well, if the George Floyd riots and the Black Lives Matter stuff was more violent, I guess the first question I would ask, why didn't Trump do something about it? It happened under his watch.
Well, because it'd be the really only way you can solve what was going on and that kind of. There's really nothing you can really do. Is people they weren't attacking government buildings; they're all attacking private businesses. There were police on the ground. The police were being attacked. I mean, in my city, somebody threw a Molotov cocktail at a police horse. The horse burned alive. The cop
Okay.
barely got away. But it's like those police are the people that were there. That's like if Trump used executive authority and he brought in like troops like the National Guard like he was thinking, then he would just be called a tyrant.
Okay. I don't know. As far as I often say it like this, and you just pointed out that the issues with Black Lives Matter and those are state issues. What happened with January 6th is a federal issue. So I bring this up anytime someone uses that as a counterpoint. They're two separate issues. We would
Well, but
blame.
even though it was states, it was all of the states. It wasn't just like it was just happening where
No,
George
that's
Floyd
not
died.
true. That's not every state did not have a major issue with Black Lives Matter riots. I mean, there wasn't no riots in Idaho, Montana, Wyoming. I mean, most of the states in this country
Yeah,
did not have
well,
any
I live in New
serious
York. I live in
issues.
New York, so you can imagine.
Huh?
You could imagine. I live in New York, so I experienced it very
Yeah,
well.
yeah, there were. I would tell you this, and I've been to Black Lives Matter protests myself, and I would tell you this: just about every city in America that has a population of over 50,000, certainly over 100,000, but just about any mid-sized city in this country has had a Black Lives Matter protest in the last 5 years or so, and overwhelmingly. The vast majority of them were peaceful. And when I say Idaho, Wyoming, and Montana, they had Black Lives Matter protests in those states too. So when folks make it sound like all of Black Lives Matter protests or the vast majority of them resulted in fires and looting, it's just not true. I
Well, here in
mean,
New York, I remember there was buildings that were boarded up, just regular gas stations. So we had an entire mall that was looted.
yeah, but you're talking about New
Like I said,
York. But you're
yeah,
talking
it's
about
New
New
York.
York. What about
I'm
Panama?
speaking
Yeah,
as
but what
a
about
Republican
what?
in a New York State. I have little experience of other states. All I was aware of was what was going on in the summer of 2020 around me.
Yeah, but if you look at what was going on in the summer of 2020, all of the peaceful areas I'm telling you about, you didn't hear about them in
Well,
2020.
that's because
Panama
they
City,
don't
Florida.
have
You
the
didn't hear about a Black Lives Matter protest in Panama City, Florida, but they had one. You only hear about the bad ones.
well. There was so much widespread just protest going on. There was so many things happening, and the difference is that with January 6th, it was one event. So it's like you could focus on every single little aspect and every single thing that every person did wrong on January 6th because it was only one thing. If on January 6th there was multiple state capitals that were being protested and people were doing the same thing, it would be kind of the same thing as Black Lives Matter. But the issue is that they just went straight to the Capitol.
Here's the difference, and here's where you and I think you and I differ. When you look at the damage from Black Lives Matter, you're talking about TVs being stolen from Best Buy, small businesses being burned. I'm not taking away from any of that. But when you look at what happened on January 6th, they were trying to overthrow the United States government. They
I don't agree.
literally they were trying to kill people.
I
At
don't
least if
agree.
you take their word for it, they
If
were
they were trying
suggesting they
to, they
wanted
would
to
have.
kill people.
They were trying to, they would have. They could
They
easily have
didn't
done
get
it.
their hands on the people. Okay, so listen, I'm going by what they said. I'm not. I'm just going to go by the fact that they brought a gallows there and said they wanted to take the life of the vice president. That to me is goes leaps and bounds beyond stealing TVs from Best Buy.
But how does I think that doesn't uh violence, I don't believe in any political violence, but I think that political violence towards the people you disagree with directly makes more sense than just random terror against consume like corporations, like businesses. And it wasn't even just big businesses. Like there was many small businesses that were looted, and there was signs being put up like this is a black owned business, so that they could specifically avoid that. That's terror. That is terrorism at its core. When you drive around and you see buildings boarded up because you know people are going to be hitting the streets and looking for whatever they can, and you're identifying yourself based off a certain race to avoid that terror, that is terrorism.
Yeah, both of them were terror. I mean, not only did what happened on January 6th take place, the FBI has been complaining that MAGA has led to an increase of white supremacist terrorist acts all over the country. So I agree that there's terrorism on both sides of the aisle. But what I'm saying, though, is that you're talking about it makes no sense to go after folks that have nothing to do with your cause. I agree with that. Burning down a mom and pop shop because you're pissed at police makes no sense. And I will submit to you that some of that is not Black Lives Matter. That's some people who are realizing right
Yeah,
now
those
there's
people aren't
chaos
even,
in town.
they wear masks for a reason because they're all white liberals, and they're using that event as an excuse to like wreak terror on those people that they hate. So it's not really and that's the key difference. January 6th was the aftermath because all the Republicans who sat back and watched that happen on their TV helpless, and then they see everything that they're thinking is that there's no way that a Democrat who these people were Democrats, liberals, communists, basically, because that's what their whole movement is, Antifa. It's essentially anarcho-communism, basically. They're very liberal, left-leaning.
Here's what I don't get. When it comes to Antifa, I don't get why the right automatically tries to conflate them with left wingers. Antifa and the left are not the same. Antifa is anti-government. Period. The left is known for wanting big government. The Antifa is the exact opposite of the left, but the
Well,
right tries their best to make it sound like these groups are together.
there's multifacets of the right and the left. There's authoritarian left and authoritarian right, and then there's libertarian left and libertarian right. Like the flag get
Okay.
behind you, I own the same flag. Don't tread on me. I believe in my personal freedom, but I associate with the right side. I'm saying right wing, but there is also the right
Okay.
left wing version of libertarianism where that's where the anarchists basically align. Is the left side of that.
Okay. So at the end of the day, in regards to January 6th, should we just move on and just sweep it under the rug? What should we do?
I don't think you should sweep it under the rug. I just think that it's honestly kind of ridiculous the amount of like all these committees that go on surrounding what happened because at the end of the day, nobody was overthrown. There was only
Well, but
people who
they believe the president tried to orchestrate the overthrow. The fact that he was not successful, but they believe he tried to do it. Shouldn't they at
but
least do an investigation and find out if that's true?
if Trump really wanted to do the overthrow, all he would have had to have done is just said it. And I promise you, all the people that were in that crowd would have done it, and there would have been a lot more blood spilled that day. But he didn't. He was very vague. He just
Okay.
said, "We're going to get back." He was speaking very
Okay,
politically. He's not dumb.
let's say you're correct, but shouldn't they be allowed to do an investigation and verify that? Or should they just take your word and move
Oh
on?
yeah, they could do an investigation. I don't care, but
All
I think
right.
it's kind of hypocritical. There's no investigation regarding the whole riots that went on previous in the summer
But
of 20.
that's a state issue. I keep telling you, you're talking. We're talking about what they're doing in the federal government, and you're saying it was hypocritical. The state didn't do something. These are two different entities. Go attack the governors in those states. You know, if you believe that you live in New York, for instance, go criticize your governor, but that ain't got nothing to do with Liz Cheney and Adam Kinzinger in D.C. They're federal officials. Go attack your state and complain about them. Why didn't they do something?
Well, that was also, it's a very unique time period, the election, because that's all anyone was thinking about was the presidential election. And that's what to them really mattered, because it's a symbolic position of power. And it's also beyond symbolic, but it sets the tone for the country.
Okay. But what about how do you respond to Trump telling people he won by a landslide? I mean, have you seen evidence as of yet that proves Trump
No,
not only
I don't.
then do you
I
hold him
don't think
accountable
he.
for that?
I don't think he won, but there was things that went on election night that like would make anyone suspicious. And I'm not part of the thing. I don't think Trump won. But when you have Michigan pulling in like 3 million votes or whatever for like Joe Biden overnight, everybody wakes up and everyone switched. There's confusion, and I'm just going to be straight up. A lot of people who are on the Republican side aren't very smart. A lot of people, like the guy you just had, who was talking about unions. He was talking about how like, oh, I don't like unions, and then he says he just got fired. Like, you just got fired because you don't have a union.
You're killing me.
That's just how it is. I mean, it's just I can't. All I know, like, I just know that there's a lot of people on both sides that aren't smart, but especially with Republicans, because they're not in the same scenario. Like, they're not living in the cities. They don't understand the true corporate greed and stuff like that. They're out of the touch, basically.
Okay, well, you still got me laughing from that shit. But so I got five. Okay, so let me see if I can say this shit with a straight face. So that was funny. But so I'm trying to ask the question though. Even you, because you support Trump, right?
Yeah, I'd say I support Trump.
Okay. Okay. So even as a Trump supporter, you're admitting that he didn't. You admit that there were maybe improprieties to the election. But even now, 2+ years after the election, or whatever, 2 years after the election, you have not seen any evidence to suggest he won by a landslide. So do we hold him accountable for throwing out something that is obviously looks like a lie? Where did he get the right to say he won by a landslide?
He didn't have the right to say that, but
Should he
he
be held
knew that
accountable for saying
it
it?
would work.
You said what?
He didn't have the right to say it, but he knew it would work. He knew it would work with his voter base.
It would work in regards to what? What would it lead to
Because
happening? What do you
that
mean
was
it
the,
would
that was
work?
the consensus already. So like he can't just because he knows that if he went out and denied the false consensus, then he's gonna make enemies and he won't be able to run again. So he has to sort of go with whatever is sort of like popular and floating around. Because if he stands against, that's why they were talking about Mike Pence like that, is because he immediately did, basically he did the right thing, but he immediately just was like, yeah, but in doing that, he took a stance against Trump and he kind of made an enemy. Like he put up Joe Biden and Kamala as like his Twitter banner, and it's just like the day after the election, it was like it became a thing where it's like there were sides being taken, and when you're in that deep of
You do realize you're making Trump look like a very bad guy. You're stating that he didn't
I
win,
don't think Trump
but he
was a good guy.
deliberately lied about it because. Go ahead.
I was a Ted Cruz supporter. I was never a Trump supporter. I never thought that Trump should have been in office at all. I was never a Trump supporter. But at this moment in time, he has a very big, he's drawing in a lot of people that were not Republicans before, and I can't deny that for the party. It's just true. The
I'm fine with
demographics.
all of that. I'm fine with all that, but you're admitting, even as a supporter, that he deliberately lied about the outcome of the election for personal gain, which we can argue whether it led to January 6th or not. We can go back, but I mean, you're admitting that he had no right to say it. You don't see any danger in doing that?
There's most definitely danger in doing that. But it's not danger for him. So it's sort of like he's playing a ball game where it's like, as a president, he has a lot of pressure on him. He sees the way the world's going with. He knew about the whole Russia thing ahead of time. He knew about the China thing, and I'm not going to pretend to like say I know all like the deep state stuff that's going on, but I don't think that it was purposely deliberate. I don't think that he thought that anybody was going to actually overthrow, because there was really no overthrow. If he wanted an overthrow, he could have had one. But
even if there was, he didn't mean for folks to overthrow. Let's say January 6th never happened. You're still doing things that will deliberately make folks not trust our democracy based on a lie. Even if nobody does anything on January 6th, if you
well, there
get up
was
there and say, I won by a landslide, knowing you didn't, you're destroying the way people view democracy. Why do that?
okay. Well, let's bring this back to the first time Trump won, his first against Hillary. I remember very, very clearly, and no one can tell me this otherwise, that they were questioning the legitimacy of the election afterwards. The Democrats were. They were saying there was
Yeah.
Russian collusion for a very, very long time. So you
Okay.
can't tell me
That's
that
true.
that didn't have an effect on the level of our trust in democracy. And the
No,
Democrats did
because
a
I don't think that even though Hillary Clinton suggested that Russia helped Trump win the election, she didn't take that shit to nowhere near the level that Trump has taken us to. I mean, he went 60 court cases,
well.
tried
They
to go
impeached
to the
him.
Supreme Court. He's holding rallies all over. He's still involved in it. In fact, his endorsement is actually judged on how you feel about the election. If you say that the election, Trump didn't win the election, you're probably not even going to get his endorsement. This is way higher. And I agree with you, Hillary Clinton. She said that. But it's not even night and day on these levels.
Well, it's almost the same thing, because if you claim that Russia helped Trump, if without Russia, Hillary would have won. And there was Antifa violence on the street right after in DC after Trump won. That's on record. There was cars being burned and bombed, and it was a lot of violence on the streets of DC. The only difference is that they didn't enter the Capitol building.
They didn't talk about hanging the vice president.
Oh, they talked about hanging Trump all the time. It's and the thing about it is, like, it's so much different because it wasn't done in the same way. Because the Antifa, their anonymity is their power. When January 6th happened, they were just standing out there with, like, their open faces and flags. They
The
were
weird
talking.
thing about Antifa, I never heard of them before Trump. I don't remember Antifa during the Obama or Bush administration at
Yeah,
all.
they weren't a
I don't
thing.
remember them.
They weren't a
Yeah.
thing before.
Okay.
They had a
Is it
resurgence.
possible they popped up because they thought Trump was a fascist?
Yeah.
Okay. All right. Fair enough. I got to move it on to war crime. First
All right.
time we talk.
Yep.
Okay, good talk. Come on back. Don't be a stranger, man. Come on back to anytime. All right, looking in the comments here real quick. Trump never conceded when Hillary Clinton did concede. Back 5-7, you're bringing up Kathy Griffin with Trump's head. She paid a price for that. Her career was halted completely. She received visits from the Secret Service. She was placed on the no-fly list for over a year. She didn't get away with that. It wasn't like she just told a joke. The liberals laughed and we moved on her. She's written books and shit about that. She paid a big price for that. So I want you to understand that even though what she did was wrong, it ain't like she did it in a vacuum and got away with it. So understand that. But anyway, folks, I do appreciate the fact you guys have been riding with me. It's always good to talk to the other side. Hey, you can be anywhere you want to be on this social media platform. And the fact that you're rolling with your boy, I'm always happy to hear that. Almost 20,000 likes. You guys got me up to 19,000. 25,000 would have been awesome. Bunch of patriots in here. A few liberals. Bunch of patriots in here. I asked and asked and asked, but the Patriots had lazy thumbs this evening. So, but listen, it is Sunday. The games are on. My Bears don't play till tomorrow, which is why I figured I'd come in here and talk to the folks. And I did want to hear how you guys felt, particularly about some of the shit that I was playing. I don't know. I mean, you're talking about like for instance, the one I played here, 20K. Yeah, okay. Michelle, I hear you. Appreciate that.
They will be canceled. Zechariah 1 talks about Thanksgiving. We are days away from Thanksgiving. What is Thanksgiving? Galatians 6 talks about it. Be not deceived, God is not mocked. For whatever a man soweth, thus shall he reap. Those who have planted evil seeds, they are about to get evil upon their own heads.
Now
Those who have planted good seeds are about to be blessed beyond measure. We are here. We're going to go dark, and when the lights come on, worldwide celebrations are coming. We are going to see the return this year. 45 comes back, not by his will, but by God's will. God's will shall be done. God gets all the glory.
God is coming back.
Financial rebalancing.
The angel glory be God. If I can get
to visit these people. These people are
glory
going
be
down.
God. He's coming back this year. So what do you guys think? You think President Trump, according to that gentleman, is coming back this year? He didn't say in 2024 or sometime in the future. He's suggesting that President Trump is about to come back this year. So I had to run that by you guys because I listen. Folks are saying some weird shit out there, so I wanted you to hear that. But before I run, I want you to. I don't know why my damn devices are going crazy over here, but these people are saying some interesting things online. And just because MAGA, morons against good Americans, what the? I see you in the comments.
Comes in abundance and overflow. But the effectual all debts. Who has credit cards?
Just because you don't attend these things don't mean they're not happening. And sometimes they're worth hearing.
Father God!
And here's another one.
We come to you in the name of Jesus. We're asking you to open the eyes of President Trump's understanding that he will know the time of divine intervention. He will know how to implement divine intervention. And you will surround him, Father, with none of this deep state trash, none of this rhino trash. You'll surround him, people that you pick, with your own mighty hand. In the name of Jesus. The effectual...
I'm not going to ever say that anyone supporting Trump belongs to a cult. But when you see videos like that out there, it's not hard to say that there may be a few folks among us that do. Anyhow, appreciate you guys rolling with me. Until the next video, 7 p.m. Central is when we normally do this. Follow the broadcast. Follow it. Helps out the algorithms for your boy. I always make it clear I do not ban, block, or censor my guests. My preferred audience is MAGA. So that's who I like to talk to. But liberals are always welcome on the program. So follow the program and we will catch you on the next one. Until then, have a good one.
That's tomorrow, and that is it. Again, 5, 4, 3. That's tomorrow, and that is it for us today. And we will leave you with a... I can't do it. Okay. We'll do it live. Okay. We'll do it live. Fuck it. Do it live. I'll write it, and we'll do it live. Right. Fucking thing sucks. Yeah.